Pan-African Parliament. So away from that, the House is set to resume debate this afternoon that was interrupted on the 24th of September, that was yesterday, on the Technopolis Bill, National Assembly Bills number 6 of the year 2024. This is a bill by the leader of the majority party. Equally, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Amendment Bill, this being a bill that seeks to amend the EACC Act. This is a bill from the National Assembly, Bill number 11 of the year 2024. This is a bill done jointly by the leader of the majority party as well as the leader of the minority party. The Kenya National Library Services Bill, being National Assembly Bills number 20 of the year 2023, is another agenda for consideration, as well as the consideration of the Senate amendments to the Food and the Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill, this being National Assembly Bills number 21 of the year 2023, where the Senate has proposed amendments to the Food and Safety Control Coordination Bill. Allow me to hand you over to this live broadcast, streaming live from Parliament buildings this afternoon, and will be presided over by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Moses Wetangula. My name is Gladys Mungai. Have yourself a good afternoon and enjoy your viewing.
Mheshimiwa, tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, ambaye kwa hekima na wema wako umeteua nyadhifa za viongozi na mabunge kwa ustawi wa jamii na utawala wa haki wa wanadamu, tukusihi utazame kwa neema nyingi sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli muhimu za jamhuri yetu. Tunakuomba uteremshie baraka zako sisi tuliokutanika hapa, na utujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili utukufu na sifa zako siendelezwe, na ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Sergeant, ring the quorum bell.
The quorum bell is currently ringing at the National Assembly this afternoon, following the directives by the Speaker that the quorum bell is rung for 10 minutes for members here to make their way into the chamber this afternoon to do exactly that, to ensure that the House is properly curated to commence business this afternoon. According to the standing orders of the 13th Parliament, we need 50 members in the House this afternoon for the National Assembly to commence business this afternoon. But as we await for the signals from the Sergeant-at-Arms who are keeping tabs with the number of lawmakers making their way into the chamber this afternoon, the first report on the implementation status of the House resolutions on matters committee reports and public petitions is a motion that the House is set to resume debate on this afternoon with a balance of about 2 hours. And this is a motion by the Chairperson on Committee on Implementation. The Chairperson Departmental Committee on Matters Trade, Industry and Cooperatives has a motion this afternoon on the alleged unfair trade practices by foreign investors in Kenya. The committee, through its chair, seeks to have the House adopt the report of the Departmental Committee on Matters Trade, Industry and Cooperatives on the inquiry into the alleged unfair trade practices by foreign investors in Kenya. And the committee laid its report on the table of the House on the 7th of March 2024. Wednesday afternoon being a day when the House expects appearances of various cabinet secretaries to answer questions from members of the National Assembly. This afternoon, we expect, pursuant to the provision of Standing Orders number 42A, subsection 6B, that the Speaker of the House will be inviting the Cabinet Secretary for Youth Affairs and Creative Economies.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, September 24th, 2024, afternoon sitting. 1. Reports of the Auditor General and Financial Statement for the year ended 30th June 2022 and the certificates therein in respect of the following institutions. A. Amani National Congress Party, and B. Forum for the Restoration of Democracy, Kenya. 2. Reports of the Auditor General and Financial Statements for the year ended 30th June 2023 and the certificates therein in respect of the following institutions. A. Kenya Railways Corporation. B. Kenya Electricity Transmission Company Limited. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I beg to lay.
Thank you. Chairperson, Public Petitions Committee. What happened? Janet, you are the Vice Chair. Go ahead. Give her the mic. There you are.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 25th September 2024, in the afternoon. Reports of the Public Petitions Committee on its consideration of 1, the public petition number 41 of 2023 by Mr. Bob Ndolo regarding banning of TikTok in Kenya. And 2, public petitions number 49 of 2023 by the Honorable Protas Akuja, MP, regarding 41 Kenyans court-martialed and convicted for 8 years imprisonment in Uganda. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Janet. Next.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Janet, there you are again. Can you give your 2 notices?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to give notice of the following motion, that on consideration of public petition number 41 of 2023 regarding banning of TikTok in Kenya by Mr. Bob Ndolo. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Public Petitions Committee on its consideration of a public petition number 41 of 2023 regarding banning of TikTok in Kenya, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 25th September 2024. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice, the second motion, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Public Petitions Committee on its consideration of a public petition number 1 of 2023 regarding poor implementation of Edu Afya medical scheme in public secondary schools laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 7th December 2023. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Beatrice Kamei.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to give notice of the following motion: provision of appropriate access to markets in the country. That aware that the Kenya Roads Act 2007 mandates the various road authorities to, among other functions, control roads and road reserves and access to roadside developments. Further aware that market centers are ordinarily constructed along road developments across the country. Noting that due to improper planning, some of the marketplaces have no access roads, leading buyers and traders to encroach on the roads and road reserves. Further noting that there have been instances of accidents leading to multiple deaths due to this unregulated use of road developments. Appreciating that proper access roads to marketplaces would ease access by buyers and therefore avert accidents due to the converging of traders and buyers on roadsides, thus enhancing road safety and delivery and service delivery, which providing opportunities for economic engagement for the traders. Now, therefore, this House resolves that the government, through the Ministry of Roads and Transport, develops a framework to ensure that where market centers exist along road developments, appropriate access is provided, including service lanes and access roads. Honorable Speaker, I thank you.
Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable Owen Bayer.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it's a request for a statement on tribute to Ms. Mutembei Akida for exceptional contributions to women football in Kenya. Honorable Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 259D-2B to notify the House of the exceptional achievements of Ms. Mutembei Akida, a Kenyan professional women footballer who is visiting the National Assembly today. I take note that Ms. Esese Akida, who currently plays professional football in Greece, hails from Kilifi North constituency, and would like to recognize her for the immense contribution to women football in Kenya. Honorable Speaker, Ms. Akida is exceptionally Kenyan professional footballer who was born in Kilifi, a place many people would not expect to produce football talents. Despite the misconception and strong cultural obstacles to women football, Ms. Akida defied the odds to become Kenya's most decorated woman footballer of her time. Her hope in football was sparked by moving the Goalpost organization, a sport for development organization that empowers girls and young women in Kilifi and Kwale. It is there that she honed her football skills, played for MTG United in the National Women's League, and later joined Thika Queens, now Kenya Police Bullets, Matu FC, formerly the National Youth Talent Academy, and Spedag FC. She has also had successful international stints in Ramat of Hasharon of Israel, Besiktas of Turkey, and Club PAOK of Greece, her current club. Honorable Speaker, Ms. Akida established herself as a skillful clinical striker. She became the all-time leading goal scorer for the Harambee Stars Starlets and the first to score for Kenya at the Africa Women's Cup of Nations Champions in 2016. She was also awarded the top scorer for the 2016 Cotif Women Football Tournament in Valencia, Spain, having scored 5 goals for the Harambee Stars Starlets in 4 matches. Additionally, she scored a hat-trick in Harambee Stars' 3-0 win against Benfica Football Women Club and contributed 2 goals in the 3-1 win against Española women at the 2016 Kotif Women Football Club. Beyond her sports achievement, Ms. Akida founded the Esese Akida Foundation in Kilifi to support communities in nurturing football talents. In recognition of her immense contribution and inspiration to girls and young women in pursuit for their destinies, the county government of Kilifi crowned Ms. Akida with the Youth Heroine of Kilifi County Award in 2016. Honorable Speaker, Ms. Akida is an inspirational personality who has gone beyond playing football and authored a book called Chained. The inspiring book details the challenges that she has had to surmount to realize the triumphs that she has made in the pursuit for football stardom against cultural expectations. It is on this basis, it is the basis of this spectacular achievement by Ms. Esese Akida, who is in the house today, that I sought your indulgence to recognize her and record my tribute in her honor in this august house. I thank you, Honorable Speaker. They said Ms. Akida is in the house, Honorable Speaker.
You may stand up, Ms. Akida, to be acknowledged. Congratulations, well done. Accompanying Ms. Akida, or in the company of Ms. Akida, is SCK Bishop of the Diocese of Malindi, Dr. Ruben Katile, Reverend Kashuru Joseph, Vicar General, and Lay Canon Kithi, the Treasurer to the Diocese. Welcome to the House of Parliament. Yes, Milemba?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As we acknowledge the presence and the achievements of Ms. Akida, who is in the House, I want to indicate that she is already an inspiration for the young girls. The sport, football, for girls in this country is not very old. It was introduced around 1995, 1993, thereabout. And currently it has actually surpassed the otherwise celebrated football for the men, which I happen to have played myself and one time called to the national team. I'm happy that the members of the Bunge FC who are in the House, including goalkeeper, member of parliament for, is it Borabu? Gituru Masava is in the House. We want to encourage the other girls who are actually practicing and playing football, that they be inspired by Ms. Akida, who has actually gone beyond the boundaries, and the sport football for girls can become the best, well beyond the one of the men, given that we lost the glory of the Mulambas, the Masigas, the Ubwakas, and the rest of us. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Irene Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me also, as a soccer enthusiast, just acknowledge Akida for the fantastic job she has done, for even going ahead to write a book. And Akida is one of those girls from the Harambee Starlets who continue to inspire the girls in this country to play soccer. And Honorable Speaker, I just want to encourage the Bunge FC, members who are here, that if you did not know, for the first time in Kenya, the women soccer under-17 team has taken Kenya to the World Cup, something that has never happened in this country. And that is because of the people like her who continue to inspire our girls. And I want to wish her the very best. And on my own behalf and on behalf of the other ladies, congratulations and thank you, Akida, and thank you for your book. You inspire us. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Tandaza.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa fursa hii. Ningetaka nami niweze kutoa shukurani zangu na kongole kwa dada yetu kutoka Pwani Akida ambaye ameweza kufika kiwango cha kimataifa. Hii ni kuonyesha kwamba talanta zipo kila mahali, hasa upande wa Pwani. Tukija kwa upande wa soka, ni mwezi tu uliopita tuliweza kupeleka kijana katika kampi kule Bomet ya mbio na ametoka Pwani. Kwa hivyo ni vifaa ndio ambavyo vinakosekana, ni mafunzo ndio ambayo yanakosekana, lakini kwa ile njia ambayo dada yetu ametuonyesha, tuna imani kwamba wa Pwani tutaweza kusaidia gurudumu la talanta katika ngazi za kimataifa, tukijua kwamba talanta ni ajira. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, na kongole dada yetu Akida.
Nataka tufungie hapa. Kwa niaba ya bunge lote, Mama Akida, tunakushukuru sana kwa heshima ambayo umeiletea nchi yetu, na uendelee kusaidia wasichana wadogo wengine Kenya mzima ili waweze kunawiri talanta zao katika nyanja ya michezo, hasa soka. Asante sana. Honorable Mohammed Abdikadir Lakdera. Member for Lakdera. Give him the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I have a statement, a request for a statement regarding elephant invasions and sighting of lions in parts of the constituency. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Tourism and Wildlife regarding the increased invasion of elephants and recent sightings of lions in parts of the constituency. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, the rights in human-wildlife conflict currently being experienced in various parts of the constituency is alarming. This has become an issue of urgent public concern, as it threatens the safety, well-being, and livelihood of local communities. There have been multiple dangerous encounters involving stray elephants and lions, which have already resulted in tragic loss of life and serious injuries. The first incident that was reported on 2nd of September 2024 involved a stray elephant at Maalami location, Tokuduk sub-location, which caused the death of a local resident, Mr. Khalif Jolo Kase, of ID number 2756-9468, and some goats. A second attack took place in Serbi area, Mdogasha Township, on 22nd September 2024, severely injuring Mr. Hassan Ibrahim and Mr. Muhammad Ibrahim. Honorable Speaker, additionally, on 10 September 2024, residents reported sightings of 2 stray lions in Mdogasha and Eland areas. These lions seen within human settlements, where most of community and social economic activities, including livestock rearing, take place. The presence of these predators has created widespread fear, and they pose direct threat to the lives of both residents and their livestock. Honorable Speaker, it's against this backdrop that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Tourism and Wildlife on the following. 1. Immediate measures being taken by the Kenya Wildlife Service, KWS, and other relevant authorities to protect the lives of the affected residents and their livestock from further wildlife invasions. 2. Plans that are in place to mitigate future wildlife intrusions, especially areas prone to frequent wildlife movement, and immediate measures on how the government and relevant agencies will ensure the local communities are adequately protected from such dangers moving forward. 3. Clarity on the type of assistance and compensation that will be offered to the families of the deceased, those who have been injured, and those who lost livestock. And lastly, any plans on a broader wildlife management strategy being developed, if any specifically targeting communities living close to wildlife zones, to ensure that such conflicts are minimized in the future. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Chairman, Tourism. Abi Kareke. Vice Chair. Majority Leader. Where are your chairmen?
Honorable Speaker, some are not here, but we will make sure that they...
Inform them to bring a response in 2 weeks.
I will do that. Thank you.
Next order.
Order number 8, motion.
Hold on. Before the next order, allow me, members, to acknowledge the following schools in the public gallery. Kari Kamburi Secondary School from Taraka, Tarakanithi. Mihuti Secondary School from Mathioya, Muranga. And Withare Secondary School from Laikipia East, Laikipia. I've been asked by Honorable Murugara, MP Taraka, to acknowledge a school from his constituency and
the others.
Extend it to welcome the rest of the schools.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So, Speaker, allow me to welcome to the House Karie Kamburi Secondary School and the other schools that are in the House this afternoon to observe the proceedings of the August House. This is the National Assembly, part of the Parliament of Kenya, and we are happy to see the youngsters who have come to see how we conduct business in this House. It is important that they actually learn because they are the future leaders, they are the leaders of tomorrow, and they'll be coming over to succeed us when our time to exit comes, and they have to come in and they continue with the work being done. Karie Kamburi Secondary School is one of the youngest secondary schools in the Raka constituency. They do very well, both academically and in sports. And I'm proud to host them here today so that them and the rest of the team can actually see how the August House works. With those remarks, I do welcome the schools and wish them a very happy stay in the House and in Nairobi as they continue with their learning tour. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Murugara. On behalf of the House and myself, we welcome the schools, the students, and their teachers to the House of Parliament. Yes, Clive, is it about pardon?
Statement.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm rising to do a follow-up on a statement that I sought on 24th April in regard to the status of the Kenya Digital Economy Acceleration Project funded by the World Bank. Mr. Speaker, I would like the chairman, Honorable Kiarie, to listen because I was promised that the response will be brought to this House after 2 weeks. Honorable Speaker, after 3 months with no response, I again rose on a point of order reminding the House that there's a statement that has not been responded to. Again, the chair, Honorable Kiarie, promised that in 1.5 weeks, he was going to give a response in this House. Honorable Speaker, I'm rising up against 2 months later to remind him that his 2 weeks are yet to lapse. Honorable Speaker, this is a weighty issue because this is money that was meant for last mile connectivity on the ICT. 390 million US dollars. That money, Mr. Speaker, either has vanished or simply no response is supposed to be given. Can I be informed whether there is a response or there is no response so that I restructure the question now with more facts and present them to this House? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
There's no provision under which you can restructure your question or request for a statement. KJ, from April to now, is inordinately long.
Mr. Speaker, I do acknowledge that yes, the request was made on the 28th of May. We channeled it to the ministry. And Mr. Speaker, I can say there was great delay from the response that we were expecting from the ministry. However, on the 3rd of September, we received a response, Mr. Speaker. And you do tell us that committees are here to work. The committee considered the response that we got from the ministry. And Mr. Speaker, it was not a report that we were ready to table in the House, Mr. Speaker, in the form and style that it was in. So what we have asked the clerk of the committee to do is to have the report that has come already to be scheduled, to be presented to the House, but at the same time, we have also sought the specificities that we thought were lacking from the response from the ministry. So these two processes are going on concurrently. There is a response that we feel is insufficient and inadequate to respond to the question raised. But we also feel that the ministry ought to offer more specificities to the responses that they have given as a committee. And I want to assure the Honorable Clive that we do take that issue very seriously. It goes to the core of the Kenya Super Digital Highway project, and if answered properly, it will be for the benefit of all members in this House. So, Mr. Speaker, we have an insufficient report. It's already being channeled through the systems, but as they are doing that, there are some specificities that we are still seeking from the ministry. I thank you for your magnanimity, Mr. Speaker.
Order, members at the bar. Order. Members conducting an illegal kamkunji in the chamber. KJ, that explanation is inadequate. The right thing to do, if you get a response from the ministry that is, in your opinion, inadequate, bring it to the House and seek the permission of the chair to go back and get more information. Secondly, you also have a duty, if the response is inadequate, to inform your colleague who requested for a statement that you have an answer which in your view does not address all the issues. You need to go back and get more information. Thirdly, is available to you to summon the ministry, the minister and his team or her team, to come before you and invite the questioner to also attend so that you can deal with the issues. But waiting from April to now is unacceptable.
Mr. Speaker, I want to confirm to the House that we have actually taken the course of action that you are directing. I have members of the committee here. I can see Honorable Kivasu, Mheshimiwa Irene Mayaka. They can bear me witness that we have actually okayed the report, even in its inadequate form, to be brought to the floor of the House, so that even as the process of seeking the specificities is going on, we can still be able to present. Mr. Speaker, I have also had occasion to have a one-on-one engagement with the Honorable Clive, and I have informed him of the situation. And again, the members of the Committee of CII can bear me witness that the committee has decided to actually call the minister before the committee so that he can put the record straight specifically about this issue that has been raised by Clive. So, Honorable Speaker, we have followed the course of action that you do recommend. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable members, after putting questions at orders 8 and 9, Majority Leader arranged to bring in the Minister who is coming to respond to questions this afternoon. Next order.
Order number 8, motion. Report on the Consolidated Fund Services expenditures for the Supplementary Estimates 1 for the financial year 2024-2025. Question to be put.
Honorable Maungu, take the nearest seat. Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 8, which is that this House adopts the report of the Public Debt and Privatization Committee on its consideration of the Consolidated Fund Services for the Supplementary Estimates 1 for financial year 2024-2025, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 24th July 2024. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, motion. Public petition on funds spent on contrary to the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution. Question to be put.
Let me put the question first. Members on their feet, take your seats. Thank you. Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 9, which is that this House adopts the report of the Public Petitions Committee on its consideration of public petition number 4 of 2022 regarding funds spent by the national government contrary to the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 12th March 2024. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next. Who moved the coffee bill? Mutunga, is he here in the House? Call the next order.
Order number 10, the coffee bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2023, second reading. Mover to reply.
Mutunga, can you reply?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to reply to the coffee bill. Honourable Speaker, members in this House declaring the importance of coffee in this country as an important crop grown in 33 counties of Kenya, and occupying about 800,000 farmers in small scale and also more than 4,000 estates. Honourable Speaker, the bill recognizes the industry and bestows responsibilities to the various governments, responsibilities to the county government, responsibilities to the national government, responsibilities to the Coffee Board of Kenya, and the Coffee Research and Training Institute, among others. Honourable Speaker, farmers are waiting for this bill. They're waiting for the law on coffee to be able to ease the problems that have been there for a while, because this is really a valuable crop to them. Having passed through the Senate, Honourable Speaker, this bill is right at the tail end to have a law on coffee that basically expunges coffee from the Agriculture and Food Authority and sets its own authority is important. Honourable Speaker, in conclusion, at the point of the committee of the whole House, the Committee on Agriculture and Livestock of the National Assembly will be bringing in some amendments, and also the members, some private members will also be bringing in an amendment to make this law sharper and better for Kenyans. Honourable Speaker, I beg to reply.
Member for Lagdera, take your seat. Honourable members, I now put the question at order number 10, which is at the coffee bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2023, be now read a second time. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Those of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the establishment of the Coffee Board of Kenya and the Coffee Research and Training Institute, the roles of the national and county governments, the regulation, development, and promotion of the coffee industry, and for connected purposes.
Honourable members, we'll go back to order number 7. We have in the House the CS for Minister of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports to respond to questions as listed out on the order paper. Minister, welcome to the House. And you, Majority Leader, who are the owners of these questions? Minister, there will be no individual members asking the 3 listed questions 4 actually, A, B, C, and D. So I'll invite you to respond to all the issues raised. Then thereafter, I'll invite members to seek clarification or ask additional questions, if any. You may go ahead. And since this is your first appearance since your dismissal and reappointment, your congratulations on behalf of the House. And we hope that you'll continue like you did in the last term, cooperating with the House and appearing whenever you are requested to appear or summoned to appear. You're one of the ministers who never fail to appear when you are called to this House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the invitation, but also to appreciate you for congratulating me and to thank the House for approving my appointment, being my first time also to come in to this chamber since being reappointed. It's always exciting to be here, Mr. Speaker, and a privilege, really a great privilege, knowing that many Kenyans would have had an opportunity to appear before such august House. Mr. Speaker, I was asked about 4 questions as you've mentioned, so maybe for purpose of the answered, I will restate them and then just respond. Mr. Speaker, the first question was, we appraised the state of the preparedness of the country in terms of infrastructure, facilities, and other logistics to successfully host international sports events, more specifically the planned hosting of Africa Nations Championship, which is CHAN, and Africa Cup of Nations. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports, through Sports Kenya, embarked on a number of sports infrastructure projects during the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th medium-term plan of the 2013 to 2017, 2018 to 2022, and 2022 to 2027, respectively. We are aligned to the National Vision 2030 and the Kenya Kwanza Government Manifesto. Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania have jointly secured hosting rights for Africa Cup of Nations 2027 and also a soccer championship, Mr. Speaker, known as the CHAN 2025, which is Total Africa Nations Championship, leading to targeted upgrading of some facilities in compliance with the requirements of the championship. The bid was awarded to the 3 countries by the Executive Committee of Confederation of African Football on 27th of September 2023. The Cabinet approved it to host the sports event on 3rd of October 2023. And Mr. Speaker, on the 15th of September 2024, I was privileged to host the CAF president who visited the country to assess Kenya preparedness to host the CHAN and Africa Cup of Nations 2027. And I'm glad to inform you that the CAF president expressed satisfaction with the progress we have made thus far. Mr. Speaker, on the sports infrastructure development, the minister developed a master plan and categorized the infrastructure development in the country into the following categories. First is that international stadia shall be stadia that have category 4 status, which is over 30,000 seating capacity. There shall be also national stadia, category 3A, which shall have 15,000 to 30,000 seating capacity. Then we have what we call regional or county stadia with category of 10,000 to 15,000 seating capacity. And then there will be community grounds with category A of 5,000 and below capacity. And there is also a community ground, between 5,000 and 10,000, and there are also smaller community grounds who have seating capacity of below 5,000 people. Currently, development and refurbishment of these projects have been prioritized into the following categories as follows. We have the AFCON projects, and we have the ongoing projects, and then, of course, future planned projects. Mr. Speaker, insofar as preparation of Africa Cup of Nations and the African Championship, Mr. Speaker, there are three very important pieces of infrastructure, starting with a new stadium that is being constructed at Jamhuri along Gong Road in Nairobi, which is Talanta Sports City. This stadium, Mr. Speaker, shall have a seating capacity of 60,000 and is expected to be completed December 2025. The stadium, Mr. Speaker, will be accompanied by 3 grounds, which are training grounds within the Talanta Sports City, 2 with running track, and another 1 football pitch, which shall be shared with the rugby. Mr. Speaker, as a result of this construction, we will then move, for purpose of Africa Cup of Nations, the Nyayo National Stadium shall be categorized as a training ground for purpose of the Africa Cup of Nations. So the Talanta Stadium will be the main stadium, and the Africa and the training ground will be Nyayo Stadium. Mr. Speaker, as we speak now, we know that this is a new project. Groundbreaking was done on 31st of March this year. The progress so far is 23%. The works are ongoing, and we are delivering this together with the Ministry of Defense, who are the contracted agency of the Ministry of Sports. Mr. Speaker, the other stadium is the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani. As is being renovated, Mr. Speaker, it shall now be a 55,000-seater capacity, and the expected date of completion, Mr. Speaker, is December this year. The main works that are being done to refurbish the stadium is installation of new roof, Mr. Speaker, that will have a greater enclosure of the stadium, 30 meters around the stadium, installation of seats, upgrading of flood lighting to what is called 3,000 lux, expansion of the VIP pavilion, refurbishment of the football pitch, installation and installation of access controls, audio visual systems, sound, VAR, and CCTV to the stadium, and the upgrading of the changing rooms, doping control and medical rooms, upgrading of the press and media center, Mr. Speaker. The works are ongoing now. I have gone there to supervise the progress twice, and the roof was being fabricated off-site, and it's been delivered now. It's on its way to Kasarani and to be delivered and installed. Again, this is urgent because this is the stadium that we shall use for CHAN next year, which is February. Mr. Speaker, on the training grounds related to the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, we have 2 pitches at the Kenya Academy of Sports ground, and Mr. Speaker, we intend to also eventually to make Kirigiti Stadium to become a training ground for purpose of Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, Africa Cup of Nations hosting in 2027. The sites, all these training grounds have been handed over to contractor and is currently mobilizing for that purpose. Mr. Speaker, the works, as I said, will be completed by December this year. Mr. Speaker, the third facility for purpose of AFCON is the Kipchoge Keino Stadium with a capacity of 15,000 seater. Expected completion date was initially, Mr. Speaker, is actually December 2025. There was a slow process of contracting, but we believe the contractor can put more effort to make sure that December 2025, Kipchoge Keino Stadium will have been constructed with the international capacity. The main works are roofing, installation of VVIP and VIP seats, upgrading of flood lighting to 3,000 lux, refurbishment of the football pitch, installation of access control of the visual system, sound, VAR, CCTV, upgrading of changing rooms, doping control and medical rooms. the project was commissioned and site handed over in August this year, and contractor is currently on site, ready to continue with the work. There is also, as part of the works, upgrading of the press conference and the media center, and upgrading the perimeter wall, and replacement of the tartan track to make it international. Mr. Speaker, as part of the training grounds of the Kipchoge Stadium, we shall be commissioning works on Kapsabet Stadium, Eldoret National Polytechnic Grounds, and 64 Stadium, all of two of whom which are in Uasin Gishu, and the other is in Nandi County. Mr. Speaker, for part of Chan projects, Mr. Speaker, initially Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, after bidding for Chan, the ministry established and identified the following stadia to host Chan. That was Masinde Muliro, Kandui Stadium, Buhungu Stadium, and Nyayo National Stadium. However, when CAF inspectors visited the country, the above facilities, they recommended that only Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, and the Nyayo National Stadium shall be eligible to host this very important tournament. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, as far as Nyayo Stadium is concerned, Nyayo is going to be 18,000-seater. It's actually an 18,000-seater stadium. And Mr. Speaker, initially we were told to change the football pitch, but we have had good consultations and agreement that the grass which is there is sufficient for us for Chan preparations, so that we don't delay the works towards Chan. So therefore, some work will go to roofing, installation of VVIP seats, upgrading of flood lighting to 3,000 slugs, installation of access control, visual systems, sound, VR and CCTV, upgrading of changing rooms and doping control and medical rooms, which part of which has already been done, upgrading of press conference and media center, which is also done, and upgrading the perimeter wall, and the replacement of the tartan track. Mr. Speaker, as part of the Nyayo National Stadium being the facility, Police Sacco Stadium and Ulinzi Stadium shall be the training facility, and the works will be done to make sure that they are up to standard as training facilities. So, Speaker, the second part of this question focuses on the condition of the key sports facilities in the country, including the maintenance, modernization, sustainability of hosting international events, and as may say, also national events. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, here below is a breakdown of current conditions of key sport facilities in the country. We have about 12 stadia that had been promised from the time the Jubilee administration came to office in 2013, and some of whom have become monuments of shame across the country because there were promises that are yet to be kept. And some of these stadia include Kinoru Stadium in Meru, Kirubia Stadium in Tharaka Nithi, Marsabit Stadium in Marsabit County, Kamarin Stadium in Elgeyo Marakwet County, Ruringu Stadium in Nyeri County, Wote Stadium in Makwiny, Karatu Stadium in Kiambu, Buhungu Stadium in Kakamega, Masinde Muliro Kandui Stadium in Bungoma, and Kirikiti Stadium in Kiambu, Jomo Kenyatta Stadium in Kisumu County, and Wanguru Stadium in Kirinyaga County. Mr. Speaker, let me start with Kinoru in Meru. The overall completion of the Kinoru Stadium is 99%. It is 15,000-seater stadium, a FIFA standard football pitch, a borehole and associated water storage facilities, generator, electrical and mechanical works, subbase for 8-lane track. We have a VIP lounge and athletes changing rooms and so forth, and CCTV installation. Mr. Speaker, this is 99% done. And Mr. Speaker, there are a bit of concerns here, which makes it the 1% that needs to be completed and for the stadium to be used as it ought to be for national FIFA events and other athletics events. Kirubia Stadium, Mr. Speaker, again, this is the overall completion of this project is 99%. It's a 2,000-seater pavilion, FIFA standard football field, a borehole and associated water storage, electrical and mechanical works, and 6-lane tracks with field and event facilities. The project is practically complete. However, there is a need to expand the VIP holding rooms and presidential dais, which was not in the original specs. Further, we have asked Sports Kenya to collaborate with Kenya School of TVET to review the design and bill of quantities and advise on the budget requirement to facilitate the completion of that remaining part of the stadium. The Marsabit Stadium in Marsabit County, Mr. Speaker, is estimated to be 85% complete. It's a 15,000-seater stadium for full design scope and current scope of 6,000-seater. A FIFA standard football field, boundary wall with gates, a borehole and associated water storage facilities, car park area, electrical works, headland track with field events facilities. The Sports Kenya scope was completed by, the scope for Sports Kenya national government for that matter was completed on 30th May 2022, save for the pitch which was varied from natural grass to synthetic turf. Construction of VIP pavilion by the county government stalled with glaring structural integrity shortfalls. The State Department of Roads conducted integrity tests and have submitted a report. I have directed Sports Kenya to work with Kenya School of TVET to review the recommendation on advice on cost for the re-advertisement of the works that are remaining, and the works will be undertaken by Sports Kenya to complete and restore and retrofit the areas, Mr. Speaker, that were actually left out. Kamarin Stadium in Elgeyo Marakwet County, Mr. Speaker, this is the most talked about project and the most source of embarrassment when it comes to sports stadia. The initial completion rate was 35%. It shall be a 15,000-seater stadium for full design scope with FIFA standard football field, a borehole and associated water storage facility, electrical mechanical works, and we intend to construct 8-lane tracks with field events facilities. This was identified to be an important facility for sports training, Mr. Speaker. For the benefit of this House, it hosts 3,000 athletes in the country, Mr. Speaker, and it has extreme importance, this stadium, to that effect. The project contract was terminated. The scope has been then integrated with the prototype designs that have been prepared by the School of TVET. The project is to be re-advertised based on those prototype provisions that have been given. And Mr. Speaker, under the new design, it will also have a 100-bed capacity hostel for training for athletes especially. Mr. Speaker, Ruringu Stadium in Nyeri has an overall completion status of 75%. Mr. Speaker, initially it was with a 2,000-seater pavilion, which was the objective then, a FIFA standard football field, a borehole and associated water storage facilities, electrical mechanical works, headland tracks with field event capacity, and VIP lift. Mr. Speaker, the contract also, the same contractor with the contractor for Elgeyo Marakwet County, Kamarin Stadium, was also terminated. And Mr. Speaker, the scope has been integrated in the prototype designs developed by the School of TVET. The project will be re-advertised, Mr. Speaker, fresh, and using the new designs, we will deliver at least a 10,000 seater capacity of a stadium, Mr. Speaker, and that is our objective. On Wote Stadium, Mr. Speaker, the overall completion status of Wote Stadium, 65% of the following scope of works: 1,500-seater pavilion, 8-lane tracks with field events facilities, a FIFA standard football field, a boundary wall with gates and borehole and associated water storage facilities. Original site was changed by the county government, causing delay in commencement of work. The new site had topographical, geological challenges necessitating variations to stabilize the ground, which was unstable on the western side of the field. We have asked Sports Kenya to integrate to the prototype design developed by School of TVET so that we can also deliver the same. Mr. Speaker, Karatu Stadium in Kiambu, the overall completion status now is 90%. As a matter of fact, I will be visiting Karatu Stadium on Friday, Mr. Speaker, because our intention is to take over the stadium by the end of October, which is on 30th October 2024. The stadium is 1,500-seater pavilion, a FIFA standard football field, a borehole and associated water storage facilities, electrical mechanical works, and 6-lane track with field events facilities. On the Masinde Muliro Kandui Stadium, Mr. Speaker, construction of 10,000-seater terraces, associated mechanical, electrical works, and civil works, roofing, installation of seats. The expected completion date of this project, so far, Mr. Speaker, it's 90% complete, this project, with roof works construction ongoing. And Mr. Speaker, it is expected that it will be completed on December 2024. Phase 2 of the roofing scope is expected to be completed on 24th October of 2024, which is next month. Mr. Speaker, Bukungu Stadium is construction of southern terrace, changing of rooms and roofing. Completion of the stadium works started in March 2023. Progress is only 20%, and contract signed, and work is ongoing. Our duty is to make sure that we push for faster completion of the project. The 10th stadium, Mr. Speaker, is Kirigiti Stadium in Kiambu County. This stadium, Mr. Speaker, again, I visited last week, and I have given firm instructions that, Mr. Speaker, it must be completed and handing over by the end of next month. So that, Mr. Speaker, had we completed and finished the Kirigiti Stadium, we will not be struggling at the moment to see where we will host the CHAN. And, Mr. Speaker, this will be, of course, we had a deadline of end of this year, but, Mr. Speaker, I'm trying my best to make sure that by end of October, we are done with the Kirigiti Stadium. Mr. Speaker, Jomo Kenyatta Stadium in Kisumu was completed and handed over to the county government of Kisumu. Mr. Speaker, Wanguru Stadium, Kirinyaga County, was also completed. It's only remaining handing over ceremony, Mr. Speaker, to the county government. And not just a ceremony, but also with an agreement on how maintenance will be done by the county government with a properly signed MOU. Mr. Speaker, the ministry is consulting with the county governments through Council of Governors on the management framework upon handing over stadia to respective counties. Mr. Speaker, the third part of the question is, what are the specific measures or strategies put in place by the ministry to accelerate the completion of stalled or incomplete stadia across the country? Mr. Speaker, the ministry, through collaboration with the School of TVET, has developed a prototype design, and bills of quantities for different categories of stadia. As I read earlier, 20,000, 15,000, up to 20,000, up to 15, up to 10, and up to 5,000 seater. We are reviewing the design and bill of quantities for completion of all stalled and incomplete stadia, as I read earlier. And, Mr. Speaker, I have only given my team another 2 weeks. We review and start processes of paying whatever is pending. Then we can make sure that we complete this pending stadium. We do not want, again, another round of lamentations as to why we have stalled the projects. Mr. Speaker, the minister has also rationalized the budget requirement to ensure adequate funds for completion of all ongoing projects. The ministry has continued to engage with the National Treasury to prioritize the infrastructure development, and we request the National Assembly to support construction of infrastructure through budgetary allocation for adequate financing mechanism. Mr. Speaker, in every budget that is read in this country, as we speak now, we do not have a single allocation from the budget for construction of any stadium. And I request this House, as we look at many other priorities in the country, sports facilities become part of your priority areas. Mr. Speaker, this is geared for timely realization of the CHAN, as I said, and also the Africa Cup of Nations. We are exploring ways of collaborating with the private sector to enable them construct modern sports infrastructure. The ongoing review of the sports policy will provide clarity on this matter, Mr. Speaker. We are reviewing the sports policy to know how best the private sector can do the stadium. As a matter of fact, I think that government should not be owning stadia. That is my personal position. All over the world, governments don't own stadiums. It is costing a lot of money to the taxpayer without any much return. But if it was owned by private sector, they would commercialize it, and then it would be available for sports activities. A country like UK, the only stadium that is owned by government is Wembley. The rest is owned by private companies, and they're always available for sports facilities. And this is the way to go. PPP and other modalities must be applied to make sure that these stadiums are maintained well, so that not after every 10 years we are putting billions of money to refurbish facilities that should have been income generating, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the last part of the question, or the second last part of the question, was how do we facilitate measures that we put in place to ensure timely preparation, coordination, management, and facilitation of teams to represent the country in various disciplines. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports has a key responsibility of supporting teams to represent Kenya in international competition in various disciplines. The ministry usually enters the teams in international competition held outside the country and also while hosting competitions here in Kenya. The ministry has put in place the following measures to ensure that our teams are well prepared, managed, coordinated during these games. First, the ministry has put in place funding request mechanism, which has been shared and sensitized to the sports federations. Federations submit their requirement for next financial year by 31st of December every year, 6 months before the start of the financial year. The ministry compiles an annual work plan which captures the events as per ministry priorities for the next each financial year. Federations thereafter submit an itemized budget to the Department of Sports for their respective activity competitions 2 months before the start of the activities. Department then evaluates and rationalizes budgets and forwards the same to the Principal Secretary for approval. In the approvals, the ministry ensures that the teams are provided for to attend local training camps for at least 7 days to prepare adequately for the competition. For major events, the training is longer and may include training abroad to access suitable, favorable competition conditions, just like the Olympics and the World Cup by our young girls. The budget ensures that the teams are appropriately and well kitted for their respective competitions. The female teams are kitted to take care of their special needs and requirements, and the teams with disabilities are done the same. On request, the teams are also facilitated to acquire specialized equipment for training and competition in line with their respective sports. The players and officials are provided with local training allowances and foreign allowances during the competition days to incentivize the players. The teams are equally provided with travel insurances and medical covers to take care of injuries during competition and any further injuries that may go beyond the competition period. The teams traveling outside the country are accompanied by technical officers from the ministry to ensure their safety, proper welfare, and for proper reporting and feedback for each event. For teams comprising of ladies and minors, the ministry ensures that they are accompanied by chaperones and safeguarding officers to ensure athletes' safety at all times. After competitions, the athletes who excel are rewarded with cash awards as provided in the Cash Award Honor Scheme. This meant to encourage and monetize their effort during competition. In conclusion, our ministry is committed to ensuring that our teams are well prepared, well facilitated to participate in international competitions. Their good performance helps to raise the profile of our country and that of the athletes. We shall continuously revise, Mr. Speaker, our support to the teams as and when we need arise to ensure that we meet the necessary standards for our team's continued excellence in international competitions. Mr. Speaker, the next part of the question is the mandate of Kenya Academy of Sports. The Kenya Academy, Mr. Speaker, in line with the mandate of the Sports Talent Development, Kenya Academy of Sports has over the years undertaken various programs and activities aimed at identifying and growing sports talents at the grassroots. They include one sports camps, Mr. Speaker. The Academy has so far provided training to 3,457 talented children and youth in different sports disciplines through sports camps in football, tennis, volleyball, basketball, rugby, hockey, swimming, deaf basketball, chess, netball, and table tennis, among others, are summarized in the table below, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and I've attached the table. I do not need to read it again, Mr. Speaker. And then, Mr. Speaker, number 2 is athlete scholarships. The Academy awarded a scholarship to among others, Mr. Speaker, specifically on this one, to Selfa Ojiambo, a talented but very needy and vulnerable girl who was the 100-meter champion in 2000 primary school games. The Academy admitted the girl in St. Catherine's Nainka Girls, and Mr. Speaker, engaged her in training. In March 2023, as a result of the same, just as an example, Salfa won gold for Kenya in the 400 meters times by 100 relay in under 18 girls in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. In April 2023, she was placed in the 4x4 relay team for Zambia, where she was number 3 in the finals. Mr. Speaker, this is just one example of some of the scholarships that have been given. We facilitate training. An academy facilitates training for athletes in various sports disciplines, including football, basketball, volleyball, hockey, and tennis. Mr. Speaker, collaborative training, the academy supports the following sports organizations to organize tournaments. The chess tournament, Mr. Speaker, that was organized here in Nairobi with 500 chess players participating. Martial arts tournament in Meru, where over 200 youth participated. Tong Il Mo Du Kenya tournament in Mombasa. Little League based in Meru, where 200 youth were involved in the games. The American Buffaloes baseball team, who organized an American Independent Day baseball tournament in Kasarani. Celebration of UNESCO International Day, among others. There are a number of activities. Development of curriculum to guide sports training, and the academy has already developed a curriculum of 6 sport disciplines, which is football, basketball, cricket, athletics, volleyball, golf, and motorsport. There is mental skills training and psychosocial support for athletes when they are going for international events, as listed. Mr. Speaker, the Sports Talent Development and Training Framework has been prepared by the Academy, and the objective of this framework is to provide guidelines for selection and training of athletes and sports technical personnel, establish criteria for academy engagement and management of trainers, provide standards for establishment and management of sports facility equipment and training materials. Mr. Speaker, provide implementation of structure to sport talent development and training of the training at the academy. The academy also organizes, Mr. Speaker, national sports talent camps, and it has done a number of them from 2023. Mr. Speaker, which helped in identifying nurture sports talent, provide opportunities for scouting of local and talent and for local and foreign clubs, to promote positive specialization integration, and instill life skills and mentorship training. We have also the program of Talanta Hela football tournament that was successfully organized last year, Mr. Speaker, and hopefully we'll do the same also this year. And Mr. Speaker, this is meant to nurture talent particularly the first one was focused on football. And Mr. Speaker, the idea was to prepare our team for Africa Cup of Nations come 2027. And it gives opportunity to young people to expose their soccer talents, Mr. Speaker, in preparation for this tournament, and so that the coaches and the technical staff can be able to scout the best talent. And as a result of the same, last year games, that is how we got some of our girls who are now going for the World Cup in the Dominican Republic, Mr. Speaker, who have succeeded in that endeavor. Mr. Speaker, we are asking for these achievements, among others, notwithstanding the academy is yet to realize full potential, hindered by various factors. Mr. Speaker, I really want to challenge this House to look at what exactly they give the academy and what they expect. If you look at the budget for this financial year, last year, the academy was allocated, they requested 530 million for 2023-2024, and they were given 280 million. Mr. Speaker, this year, this financial year, the academy requested 600 million, and they were given 0. Mr. Speaker, there is a pattern that is developing and that I've witnessed. Now that I'm serving in a second ministry, Mr. Speaker, I can do proper comparison. You will find that in this ministry, Mr. Speaker, largely all the agencies are ignored. You are aware that, and related to this, but not in the question itself, ADAC, which is dealing with anti-doping, was also given, at the request of 300 million, they were given 20 million, Mr. Speaker, to the protestation of the International Anti-Doping Agency. There is, and I want to implore through you, Mr. Speaker, this House, that let us put our money where our loudest mouth is, in the sense that as a country, we really like sports, we like cheering our athletes, we like our footballers, we do all that. But we are happy to sit as executive and as legislature here to give zero to athletes, to sports people. I think, Mr. Speaker, it should prick our conscience and rethink about how we are handling sports and sports facilities. No wonder, Mr. Speaker, the potential of sports in this country has never been realized as it should, because you cannot, Mr. Speaker, reap where you do not sow. With zero money allocated to sports of academy, you get zero. That's why you see the academy, Mr. Speaker, is reporting one scholarship, and they really want to report in a big detail one person. We can actually do more if we have proper resources in that regard. Mr. Speaker, I do not, of course, want to mention what the state departments get, both youth and sports, because it is laughable. Mr. Speaker, there is inadequate staff level, Mr. Speaker, at the academy. We have 36 staff against the establishment of 155. There is also lack of training facilities. We are only focusing on one facility in Kasarani. Mr. Speaker, we need more facilities to be able to, for the academy to be able to support sports. Mr. Speaker, the academy has also developed a digital hub, a talent hub for online talent identification, where if you establish or you identify a talent anywhere in the country, it is sent to that digital hub. But, Mr. Speaker, we have audited and realized it is inadequate because it's using, Mr. Speaker, very basic technology. Properly working talent search technology uses artificial intelligence, where the information is sent to the site and it automatically identifies the quality and the talents of students. If you look at Premier League, for those who follow football, you realize that the Premier League teams are now using modern technology. People just send skills all over the world and helps in talent search. It also helps in identification of talented sports people. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, the Kenya Academy of Sports here to establish sports training academies across the country, because I needed to contextualize that is the question of how many talent academies do we have across the country. The Kenya Academy of Sports here to establish sports training academies across the country due to inadequate resources. Construction of the headquarters in Kasarani is still ongoing. Plans are on advanced stage to establish 30 sports training academies across the country during the current financial year. And Mr. Speaker, for the next 3 years, the plan is to, this year 30, next year, resources permitting, we do 90 academies, and 2026, 2027, another 90, and then 2027, 2028, we should reach a total of 290 academies, which is one academy per constituency. Mr. Speaker, the academy endeavors to continue fulfilling its mandate of sports talent identification, development, capacity building of sports technical personnel, and conducting sports research. This will be achieved through athlete identification, nurturing and development of programs, conducting coaching and refereeing courses, and provisions of sport training equipment to athletes and the teams across in the grassroots. To ensure the continuity of this program, the Academy will strive to work with stakeholders, including Ministry of Education, county governments, sports federations, Kenya primary and secondary school associations in the development of sports talent. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, CS. Members, you've had a very clear, elaborate explanation from the Minister on the issues at hand. Carolo Mondi, take the first 5, then you respond.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. And I would like to warmly welcome the good Minister back to the House and also back to the Cabinet. But I have a follow-up question, and I would like to hear from the Minister regarding the sports academies, the Kenya Academy of Sports. This is the only institution we have that offers camps, scholarships, training, both to the technical people, administrators, as well as sportsmen, and assists various groups organize tournaments, as he has said. And as he has rightly pointed out, we have had this concern in the sports committee. Kenya Academy of Sports received 0 allocation in this financial year against our recommendations. And ADAC, which is the vanguard of the integrity of our athleticism as a country, also just got 20%, barely enough to cover the admin costs. So I would like to hear from the minister that there are no proposals to wind up these 2 institutions. We are very worried. It seems like there is a clear plan to fold Kenya Academy of Sports, as well as to undermine the operations of ADAC. And we would like to hear from him if he could assure this House that there are no such plans, and if he could also elaborate to this House what plans he has to ring-fence proceeds of the sports fund, which are clearly supposed to support sports, for these 2 institutions in the supplementary budget that will be coming to this House. Is it in October or November? I think in October. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me also commend the CS for those very elaborate answers. But Honorable CS, I see you have completed a number of studies, and some like Wanguru, Jomo Kenyatta Stadium in Kisumu County, which you say you have completed and handed over to the county government. Kirigiti Stadium in Kiambu County, you say you hand it over at the end of October. Wanguru Stadium, the same, is awaiting signing of MOU and handover. My concern, CS, is once you hand over this stadia to the county governments, the government of Kenya has invested billions in some of these stadia, and I have the case in mind of Kirigiti Stadium. What measures is your ministry taking to ensure that those stadia will not be run down out of poor management by the county governments? I don't know whether the MOUs you are entering into with the counties include an oversight mechanism by the ministry to ensure that you maintain a certain standard and level of our regional and international stadia. Because, for instance, Kirigiti is a stadia that could also be used for some of the international games under AFCON and CHAN. But if we leave them to many of our county governments, they will be run down. In a year or 2, they will look like community grounds with no seats, with tartan torn, the football pitches not usable, goalposts looted and sold to scrap metal dealers. I would really want to hear what measures you have to ensure that there are even penalties to county governments, to ensure that there is a mechanism where you are able to periodically check the status of each of the stadia that have been developed by the national government, that they are maintained at the same standard. And any county government that is not able to maintain, then you must have a recourse measure to ensure that that stadia can revert back to the national government and the sports stadia to manage if as a particular county government is not able to manage and maintain the required standards. Thank you.
Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you to the CS for giving us elaborate responses. I have a follow-up question on the question on elaborate preparation for our national teams. And the question I want to ask is, the other day we had the beach kabaddi team that was going for World Cup that got really delayed in terms of their travel. And one of the complaints that came out from them was that on the day that they were actually traveling for World Cup is the same day that it was beginning. Why weren't they given priority? And the second part of that is in terms of the FKF elections, which is very close to the CHAN championship. And I just want to know, with this very close proximity, are we really ready to have the elections and also ensure that we do have CHAN with the FKF being properly involved? Thank you.
Zamzam.
Asante sana, Mheshimiwa Spika. Swali langu kwa waziri, tunajua FKF karibuni watakuwa wanapiga kura zao. Nataka nikuulize, watawezaje kupiga kura bila kuwa na appeals committee? Na kwa nini ile board ya uchaguzi iko katika himaya katika wale ambao wanawania katika sehemu yake. Ni kama vile president anataka kura, lakini ile IBC iko ndani ya State House. Itakuwaje uchaguzi wa haki? Na kisha nikuulize, kanuni vipi ambazo umeweka kuhakikisha kuwa ile standard ya FIFA imefuatwa kwa mpango wake? Na mwisho, Mheshimiwa Waziri, huku mashinani watoto wamekuwa wakicheza mpira, lakini hao watoto wanachangiwa kama maskini. Watoto wanatoka Mombasa wataka kuja Nairobi kwenye tournament, wanachangiwa mpaka saa zingine sehemu ya kulala inakuwa shida, wanaenda kulala kwenye mavaranda. Sasa mimi nauliza, kama tunakuza talanta, mbona tusianze kuweza kuweka pesa huku chini? Hao watoto wakitoka watoke na nguvu, wakijua hichi kitu tunaelekea sehemu ambao ni nzuri. Asante sana.
Razo. Vida Razo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Waziri, my question is on the issues of unfinished studies. It has taken, like Marsabit and others you have indicated, they have taken inordinately long time, 7 years, 6 years. And once you have closed out those facilities, the people who would have used those stadia, they don't have even space to play football or any other sports. I think in the realm of time, would you have a sort of time frame that by this time we'll be able to finish these works? The other issue also on that is the issue of regional centers of excellence. I find that you are biting more than you can chew, because you have too many projects ongoing, and yet you could focus on having, for this region, maybe something in Isiolo for Upper Eastern, for example, or for Northeastern, you have something in Garissa, so that the few shillings that are available to you, you focus and finish a project. Maybe your comments, Waziri. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
CS, let him respond to those 5, then we take another round.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think for my senior Honorable Karoli, I think he's reiterating the position as it is, considering that he's a member of the committee. Mr. Speaker, so far I am not aware of any plans to wind up Kenya Academy of Sports and ADAC. In fact, ADAC is impossible to wind up, the anti-doping agency, Mr. Speaker, because it's a requirement of international agency. For us to operate as a country sports facilities, we must be very careful how we treat ADAC. And therefore, for ADAC, I'm very sure about that. For the Kenya Academy of Sports, though it may be possible that there might be a conversation between that and the Sports Kenya, I am not aware at the moment that that has been progressed beyond just basic proposals. The issue we have a problem with is to have a very important grassroots agency having zero money. It's unbelievable, unfathomable, that at the moment we don't even have money to pay their salaries, let alone to carry out any project. So for that reason, Mr. Speaker, I will continue. We have had this conversation with Treasury, and I want the support of the committee and the House, the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that these resources are reinstated to run these very important agencies. As I said, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, a ministry like this and others I know that deal directly with human development are rarely supported, Mr. Speaker, with the resources that they have. Luckily, the Sports Fund has been able to support activities that are being done by various sports agencies. But we need to ask ourselves in terms of development, and unfortunately also Sports Fund cannot pay for salaries and emoluments for it is not allowed to be used to pay for salary and emoluments of agencies. So we are now in a situation where we ask ourselves why you could have an agency having zero. I plead on behalf of these agencies that we get your support. We have already had this conversation with Treasury, and I believe that when the proposal comes here for supplementary, this will be restored. In terms, the majority leader has asked a very important question, and it is a problem that we are grappling with as a ministry. The question is, once you hand over these facilities to county governments, what happens, Mr. Speaker, if they do not maintain? First, Mr. Speaker, that's why I said there has to be a conversation with Council of Government.
It is not if, it is when. They are never maintained, so there's no if.
Mr. Speaker, let me give the counties a benefit of doubt because, and I'm saying this because
very few.
So far Homa Bay County is doing very well with their stadium, which they built themselves, and it's, Mr. Speaker, fairly being well maintained. And the Deputy Speaker is saying it's because of woman. I don't think that's the reason only. Mr. Speaker, the thing I would like to say is that the MOU we are going to sign, that's why Wangoru has not been handed over, is because that MOU must capture all those issues. Mr. Speaker, the fear also that you develop as national government a facility and hand over to county. Then sometimes another county government will come, or a governor who is petty, and the national government or leadership of national government want to have a function there, the members of parliament or whoever. Then they say, oh yeah, it cannot be approved because they have political difference with MP X or Y. So that MOU will have to provide all those mechanisms, Mr. Speaker, of how this relationship will be established, considering the investment that has been done by national government. That is the most important thing we are going to have with that MOU. And as I said, Mr. Speaker, that's why it is nice progressively that this study are owned by private entities so that they do not have consideration of this type of issues. Mr. Speaker, on the question of Honorable Mayaka asked something about the team that was stuck and protested in our offices and the airport. The Speaker, we realized that the team wanted to travel 6 days before the tournament. And there is nothing, Mr. Speaker, to go and prepare for Kabaddi when you are competing. So we had requested them that they travel at least 2 days before to have time to recover and then to play, and so that we can save the costs. We communicated that to their federations and they were well aware. But you know, sometimes when people want just to raise their voice a little bit, they do certain things that may not be desirable. And the federation said that they did not instruct their players to do what they did. And we thought that was an act of indiscipline. But nevertheless, we continue supporting them, and they are now out of the country participating in the tournament. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Zamzam has talked about the FKF elections. When we got to office, one of the things I promised during vetting here in this house is that I was going to do everything possible to make sure that they do elections in the first place. So I'm happy we have an elections day. Now, we have the elections board, which is part of the regulations of FKF law. Mr. Speaker, I am going to have a meeting with the board to see if we can lend them neutral facilities, government facilities to operate their elections from, and whether we can also find ways of supporting them technically with IEBC so that the elections is as transparent as possible. That's the conversation we are having. And the stakeholders are busy now, the candidates are busy campaigning. Our desire is to deliver credible elections. We know that it is not government per se that is in charge of the elections, but our oversight responsibility and the Office of the Registrar is working very hard to make sure that that independence is achieved. We really want a properly working in FKF that has the credibility and the confidence of the stakeholders so that football can reach the stature that the people of Kenya want it to reach. And so that I promise that I will make sure that we deal with that. On the grassroots football support, again, apart from the Kenya Academy of Sports not having resources to deal with these academies in different places, the rest, you know, sports is private. Let's put it there first. Sports is a private venture. It's like business. If we look at it from a business perspective, until the day you are coming to compete on behalf of your country, the rest is a private business, and we must see it as business. And we want to support it the way we support other businesses, MSMEs and all that, as a country. That's why we must have multiple ways of achieving it. The best entities, grassroots entities for developing sports is schools. So that is why we want to sit down with the Ministry of Sports to make sure that the schools provide opportunity for nurturing talent. The rest of club football should outrightly be private. They should raise resources. They should run their footballs very well, have funding and take advertisements and all other mechanisms. But when it comes to nurturing, if we focus on schools alone, no part of Kenya will be left out. But if we focus on building a place where that training will only happen, few places can be constructed in the country. Schools all over the world, and I say this recently when we were having a NOC review of the Paris. In the US, I was told, and a statistic which I still have, the US universities contributed 3,000 athletes who went to compete in Olympics. Universities. While our universities in Kenya do not contribute even one. We have a problem of transiting from primary, it's okay. Secondary, even when we fund it from using sports fund, they produce the best sports people. After high school, we have very few athletes that are competing that are in universities. In fact, the only sport that has managed to have that caliber of athletes is rugby. The rest, the rest of the sports, football, athletics, and so forth, we do not have proper programs that take place in our colleges and universities. Again, I promised, and we are going to do this, that in the sports policy, we must strengthen education. In fact, in other countries, the Ministry of Sports, the Department of Sports, is called the Ministry of Education and Sports, because education and sports going together makes it possible for us to develop this talent. Key among them is working with the schools for equality and equity. The other issue is raised by Honorable Raso is on the question of being strategic. That is why you see in the bigger stadia, we are just constructing one per region. The ones for 10,000, 15,000, we are focusing on regions. And you are right, in the entire Northeastern region, there is no one stadium. Out of, for example, affirmative action, we need to have one that will be used in that region, and the talent is there. And then, make sure that every region is taken care of. Before now, we can move to counties. The rest is to leave county governments and private sector to construct the rest of the stadia. And slowly, government should maybe keep 2 or 3 national government. The rest either run by counties or private sector and clubs. If we had thriving clubs like Gor Mahia, AFC, Ulinzi, Shabana, or so forth, they would buy these clubs from government, pay back to the government, and they own it, and then it would be used for sports. That's why it's important to develop the sport itself, because that sport can be able then to facilitate the infrastructure that we need. Mr. Speaker, on the Marsabit one, there was inordinate delay. I already captured that in my report. Marsabit, Kinoru, Kamarin, among others. But as I promised, this will be by the time I come back here to speak about sports again and sports infrastructure, I think the pending infrastructure will have either been commissioned to start for the ones which have not started, like Kamarin, or we should be completing and handing over Marsabit. As we speak now, our officers are on their way to Marsabit to assess how much it will cost to complete the Marsabit one. And again, technical advice from Sports Kenya to make sure that can the grass grow in that area, or we use AstroTurf, or what are we going to do in terms of those pitches? Mr. Speaker, I totally agree with the honourable member that we should not spread ourselves thin when it comes to the infrastructure. Thank you.
Good. KJ.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you, and I also want to thank Waziri Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen for appearing here and also fielding these questions. Mr. Speaker, my questions are very direct. One, what plans does the ministry have for the people of Ngando Ward? Ngando Ward is a ward in Nairobi County which has got not a single public amenity. The only public amenity we have there is a school called Lenana School. Now, the people of Ngando Ward have traditionally been crossing the road, Ngong Road, and going to play in what we used to call poster grounds. It is on these poster grounds that the new stadium is being built. Now, two tragedies are occasioned on our people. One, the workforce that is working there is imported from elsewhere. So the people of Ngando Ward are just watching as these projects are going on. What plans does the ministry have to include our people so that they can also serve their community in the constructions of this stadium? And two, all the up-bet schools, because now is when Ngando is getting its first public primary school, all the up-bet schools in this ward use the poster grounds as their playing field. So we do not have any fields in all of Ngando Ward, and now they're building a stadium there. The question is, what plans does the ministry have for these tens of thousands of children who have traditionally been playing in that field? Mr. Speaker, the second question is a quick one, is to ask, is the ministry aware that there are office bearers of FKF who are insisting that they shall go into the election beyond their constitutional timelines, beyond their constitutional tenures, arguing that their tenures were interrupted by the COVID pandemic? Mr. Speaker, you know, even yourself, you are a senator, and your tenure must have been interrupted. So was mine. So was the tenure of His Excellency the President Emeritus Uhuru Kenyatta. But he did not insist that he shall go beyond his constitutional tenure just because it has been interrupted by COVID. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like to know what the ministry is doing about this, because we would not want this ministry to fall captive of the federations like previous ministries have done. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Millie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, CS. Mr. Speaker, I heard the CS speaking very well about the nurturing of talents. And as a member of parliament for Suba North and as a child rights advocate, I want to raise the case of Claire Mary Paul, who was identified and spent 4 months, and she's a Form 4 student. And then after she was identified, she was dropped. When they were about to go, and new people picked. Mr. Speaker, I'm saying as a child rights advocate, because you may have actually destroyed somebody's life permanently, while you are saying that you are actually trying to nurture sports. Is it not then self-defeating if you are wondering why we only have rugby that is doing well? If we can actually identify young people and destroy their futures by creating hope and dashing those hopes. And is one of the things that was said is they will be included, the girls who are left out. Is she still being included, even though as a spectator? And what do you have for her future? And finally, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to know if you're still building a facility in Suba North for a sports academy.
Yes, member for Tetu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And first of all is to congratulate the Minister for assuming his new role of, in the sports ministry. Mr. Speaker, I applaud the Minister for his intention to complete all our incomplete stadiums. But if I got it right, he mentioned that Ruringo Stadium, the only stadium of meaningful stature in Nyeri, is at 75% complete, if I had the number right. And I don't know whether the minister has been misled or he chose to mislead the House, because it is actually very close to a forest. This stadium started in 2017, and to the best of my estimate, and I've consulted some of my colleagues on phone from Nyeri, it is nothing more than 25% complete. I would like the minister to maybe lead the relevant committee of the House to go to Ruringo and ascertain whether the statement he has made in this House is correct. If not, he would rather withdraw and say he doesn't have the facts, because indeed Ruringo is not in the state that he has mentioned. 260 million has been sunk. The tartan that was put there 7 years ago is completely worn out. The artificial turf is completely worn out. The VIP, dyers and the rest is nothing more than 20% complete. So, Waziri, I think you have misled this house. Maybe you need to correct yourself. Thank you.
Honorable Basil.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, the CS, for a very comprehensive response to so many questions. As a member of this Committee of Sports, I would like to know what measures do you have to manage doping and end cheating? Number two, issues of corruption have dominated the ministry. So what are you going to do to manage corruption and to ensure we have progression in the ministry?
How do you manage corruption?
To eradicate.
Eradicate or manage?
No, you don't manage, you eradicate corruption.
Because you ask him how he will manage corruption.
No.
Minister, do you have talents to manage corruption?
Yeah, because that question is tied with the stolly projects. We have so many stolly projects, and the main issue is corruption. Thank you.
Yes, Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Waziri. Honorable Speaker, Waziri is also the most valuable player on the football field for Bunge FC as a striker. Congratulations. Number one question, Waziri, you have mentioned the several stadiums that you are developing around the country and even the city. But one point stands out glaringly, that you are forgetting the mother stadiums of this country, and you've said nothing about them. I will give you two. And you ably said that Wembley has a historical background, just like City Stadium. I don't know where you put City Stadium, where we grew up from and what developed the talents from Eastlands and all those players who are the greatest. And then you have forgotten Buhungu, which you indicate is being built. But when I pass by Buhungu, there's nothing going on. And those were the original developers of talent under Chris Makoha. I was a beneficiary of Chris Makoha himself while at Kakamega. So therefore, where's the place of those old stadiums? Number two, what plans are underway for you to build the stadium you promised us in Vihiga? Vihiga County has got no stadium completely. And then there was the suggestion for Kidundu and Mumboa. And you have mentioned nothing about it. Lastly, Waziri, so many Kenyans were winning gold during the election, during the Olympics. But those Kenyans, you see, this name is Keter or Kipketich, and then all of a sudden you realize this person is a Canadian. What is happening that the best athletes are running for other countries and not Kenya? Thank you.
Member for Kamukunji.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, and I'll wanted just to tell the Minister Murkomen that a very...
Why aren't you upstanding?
I have, I have disabilities and I have a broken leg. So,
okay.
Is it all right?
Go ahead, but I've previously seen you stand up to talk. That's why I'm asking. But go ahead. I know your disability.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I wanted to, first of all, tell the Minister that a very important and a large local soccer tournament, the Kamkunji Peace Tournament 2024, is taking place in my constituency at the moment, bringing in 48 teams from across the 5 wards. But the conditions in which they play, the field in which they play, the fields in which they play are in a very bad condition. And my new Kamkunji is one of the districts or constituencies that produce some of the best football talent that we have in this country historically. I just wanted to see whether there is any contribution that your ministry could make for the large number of urban youth in our capital city, a capital city of 5 million people. What can your ministry do, and what plans does your ministry have in terms of enhancing, nurturing, promoting, and building this great talent within our youth and within our communities. The second element is also whether you could come out, perhaps as you do with other sports. For example, I've seen you're a very enthusiastic marathon person. Maybe one of these days you should also come and see some of our youth playing out in the field so that they can see that there's a commitment to promote and encourage young people in sports.
Thank you. Lel Mengit, let's take those 7, then you answer. We'll do another round, members, so hold your horses.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. First, I would like to thank the CS for answering and elaborating some of the issues raised. I know he has mentioned the issue of incomplete stadiums, but I wanted to ask him on the issue of, there was an advert for development of Kapsabet Stadium, construction of Kapsabet Stadium. The advert that ran out on 26th October last year. It was advertised, it was tendered, and we were still waiting for the tender processes, evaluation, and whatever. But up to date, I don't know what stopped in between. And I know the project was for financial year 2023-2024. So I presume that the funds were available then. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, recently we have had several suicidal cases among us, the young athletes, particularly in Nandi County. Late last year and early this year, we've lost a number of them through suicide. Is there a plan for the government or the CS to set up psychosocial support desks, probably in every county, so that we can always, these people can get some advices whenever they have problems, guidance, and such kind of issues. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, you can answer those 7. Then we will pick another round.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me start with I think it was Honorable KJ. Yes. Mr. Speaker, true, the Talanta Stadium facility now is developed to an international stadium standard. It's being developed to the international stadium, and it was a playing ground for for your constituents. But it was not an official playing ground. Let me start from there. It was still land allocated to an institution. It would still have been built anything else. The only good news that you have is that your ward will be the host of the best stadium probably in the continent. It's a neighboring ward, okay, yeah. Then you are even invading another ward. That's even worse. But at least you'll be neighboring a very important facility that will bring business to your neighborhood. Number 2 is that outside the main stadium, there are 3 training pitches. There will be 3, 2 with running tracks, and the other one is purely football pitch. Again, in terms of business and employment, it will benefit the people who are living in the neighborhood. We believe also the facilities will be improved infrastructure, which will touch your ward up to Lenana and all the way to the Kibra ward. Yes, and the plan therefore is to, that's why I was coming. Maybe the plan is to say, with Sports Kenya, how can these training pitches be accessed by children and even players who have who are the bottom of the pyramid? They do not have the capacity to pay a higher fee, and that should be, we should work out that plan as we develop this facility. I am not aware, insofar as the question of employees not coming from your ward. I suspect there may be some, because there are 2,000. 2,000 is a huge figure, and at the optimum they will be having 3,000 people working at and they work day and night. I don't suspect that possibly with the minimum skills to work there, that people will miss from your ward. But we will make sure that in the remaining 1,000, maybe to tell the contractor to make sure that it takes care of the people around. And that is the case for every project of government, including the housing project. And I hope that can be followed through. The other promise I can make is that perhaps we can speak to the contractor. Coming from your presentation here, I am thinking that we can speak to the contractor to help you put a sports academy within the neighborhood of Lenana Primary School, the new school you've built, so that it can also help as part of their CSR to extend a facility to that very important school. And I will undertake that endeavor, not because you are my friend, but it's the right thing to do. It's because it's the right thing to do. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable KJ also raised the question of FKF elections and the eligibility of those who have held office for more than 2 terms. A letter went out from the registrar expressly to FKF that only no one will run for the same office more than 2 terms under the Sports Act. And that is very clear. And I believe that the officials of FKF who are holding office now, if they want to run for office, maybe to run for a different office other than the one they have served for more than 2 terms, so that we can keep within our legal standards, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Millie Odhiambo.
Mr. Can you give an assurance to the country that you are actually going to sort out our football?
Mr. Speaker,
we were a better footballing nation 20 years ago than we are today because of sheer mismanagement of football in the country.
I have made it clear.
And when we were vetting you, you gave us that assurance. Can you assure this House and the country
Mr. Speaker,
that you are going to sort out the mess in football and take back Kenya to its level as a footballing nation?
Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Sports operates, especially for sports, through the federations. So sorting football is sorting the federation. And the election process that we are undertaking, Mr. Speaker, we want to be as transparent as possible to make sure that those who come in will make sure that they follow the narrow path, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that our football is managed well. Beside that, we will, of course, play our part as government to support nurturing of talent in the football sector and to make sure that the Harambee Stars team is also facilitated enough to prepare well for tournaments. But what is extremely important is to make sure that the management of sports, including football, Mr. Speaker, is going to be as professional as possible to open doors for as many young people to play a role as, in this sector. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Millie Odhiambo has raised a very important question touching on Claire Maris, our daughter who comes from her county. And Mr. Speaker, I want to allay the fears that people have that there was unfair selection of sports team. Far from it, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, in the sports sector, you can be doing very well today. And when final selection for a tournament is done, you may not meet the cut. 3 of our girls participated and helped the team to qualify. But by the time, that was a year ago, by the time the selection was being done and there were 35 in camp and about 14 were dropped, Mr. Speaker, Claire Maris became a victim of that process. And not a victim because the coach is biased. She was just selecting her team, the best team that can compete. And as a result, we made a decision with the support of His Excellency the President to support the 3 girls who participated in the qualification process to travel to Dominican Republic as fans, to just have that inspiration, and even to facilitate them to come and do the exams with their colleagues who got the chance to play. Football is cruel. Anyone who has been following football, it can be very cruel to finally not be in the list of the selected 23. You have been hoping, you are playing very well, then your team now is going, and fans of different teams are saying, this player is qualified, this one is qualified. There is only one person who determines the team, the manager, the team manager or the coach. And once she selects that this is the best team for us to compete, we support them because that is their professional responsibility. And the minister cannot interfere, neither can even FKF interfere, because this should be the preserve of the coach. But in terms of developing our players, maybe in future when they talk to them, they should talk to them nicely to tell them you didn't make to the team, try the next time, and so forth. But when they travel and they're encouraged, they also get inspired to make sure that they are in the next World Cup. Mr. Speaker, Sports Academy in Suba North, of course, if to answer the question of Honorable Mili, eventually Suba North will have an academy, because the intention is to have 290 academies. Most of these academies will be situated in schools for maintenance and for accessibility. So eventually that will happen. It may not be in the first 30, but as I read earlier, it could be in the next 90, or the 90 that follows, or the 80 that will be the last one in the strategic plan of the ministry. But we hope that that can be done fairly so that it's spread across counties. Not one county will benefit at the expense of others. Honorable Basil has asked about doping. Doping is a serious issue. I think, Mr. Speaker, I will be paying lip services. I give just an answer because it will not be comprehensive. But the program we have for anti-doping program is so comprehensive. There is one agreement we made with the World International Athletics Federation when Lord Sebastian Coe came around, and we agreed that we called Enhanced Program, which is a 3-year program. Is it 3 years? Yes, 3-year program to make sure that we do better testing and better facilities. But comprehensively, we need the budget. And you heard me speak earlier here that on a request of 300 million budget per year, Miaka 300 million, we only got 20. And that sector requires our proper support. But we are determined to make sure that ADAC works very hard to eradicate doping in our country, because it is going to be the black sport, actually a threat to commercialization of our sports. And Mr. Speaker, to deal with this doping issue, we have now made it mandatory to register all sports people so that we know where they are, we track them, and training facilities. We know, Mr. Speaker, even an investigation that is ongoing of some foreigners who come to our country in the name of they are coming to train, and they are perpetuating matters of doping, especially one that has happened in one of the counties that is known for athletics. I don't want to say this further because DCI is currently dealing with those foreigners. And so we are going to go to the bottom of this matter insofar as doping is concerned. Insofar as corruption is concerned, I will do everything possible within my vicinity to deal with corruption. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, this is a disease that is permeating all sectors of the country. But in terms of sports is concerned, we'll make sure that the processes are as transparent as possible to make sure that we do not, either in selection of players, in financing of the teams, in delivery of our projects, we'll make sure that corruption is eradicated from those areas. But Mr. Speaker, this is a collective responsibility of all of us and our society. We must be able to deal with this menace head on. On the issue of Honorable Wandeto, I actually saw you when I was reading the statement. You quickly went to consulting another honorable member. You didn't listen to the entire part of the statement. So maybe unless I repeat it again, because once you had 75%, I could see you were worked up, which is a good thing, because it means that stadium is very important to you and to your county. The truth is that the original stadium was only supposed to be 2,000 capacity. And it was not supposed to have a covering roof. And the pavilion was supposed to be, but what you saw is 75% of what was supposed to be delivered. But as I read in the statement, we are going to deliver the same project, but now 10,000 capacity with a proper running track. And as I told you also in the statement, we have cancelled the original contract. We'll re-advertise afresh. Nyeri is one of the most important areas for training in athletics. In the larger Mount Kenya region, Nyeri and Nanyuki play extremely important role in training of our athletes. And eventually we will have to think also of what to do in Nanyuki, Nanyuki and generally Laikipia area in terms of establishing a proper high altitude training facilities for our sportsmen. So we will deliver that, Mr. Speaker, and I promise you that before end of the year we should advertise afresh and do a new contract for that area. Mr. Speaker, on Honorable Ambogo Mulema, yes, true, the Bukungu Stadium contractor is practically by classical legal definition on site, but physically with your eyes he is not. You know, in technical contractual times, he is in charge of the site. Let's put it that way. But he may not be progressing as we should because of agreeing on a few issues, including financial issues. We'll make sure that we support Bukungu Stadium to complete the part that was handed over or taken over by national government, because part of it had already been done by county government. So there are legal consultations and issues that we need to sort between us and the county. On the Vihiga County, let me say this. The stadia that I read are not the all stadia in the country. Some completed a long time ago, like Embu and some are done by county government. So if you don't see me reading Vihiga or wherever, there are some programs that are being done by the counties in that region. And others are flagship projects. That's why in your neighborhood, Bukungu Stadium is being taken care of. And to deal with the Vihiga, as part of the sports academy, Joe Kadenge Sports Academy is going to be constructed. It's part of the 30 sports academies that are going to be constructed that have actually been advertised already. Yes, and then on Honorable, yes, you asked another question. Why do we have athletes called Kipketer and Yavi and others running for other countries? Why are they? Why are we losing our best athletes to go and run for other countries? Mr. Speaker, the choice of a Kenyan taking over citizenship and running for another country is not peculiar to Kenya. You know, Mr. Speaker, that the reason shot put champion or record holder is actually a Nigerian who is a German. We know that all over the world people are running for different countries. Those athletes are not running for those countries because we were unable to give them an opportunity to run. It's, Mr. Speaker, also out of choice. You know, Wilson Kipketer left this country long time ago, 1990s, early 90s, to go and run for Denmark as of choice. You know, Bernard Kiplagat was doing so well in 1500 and 5000, and as of choice, he went to run for United States of America.
Cherono.
Stephen Cherono went to run for Qatar. Mr. Speaker.
But Minister,
the
revelation by Yavi on
Yes.
why she ended up running for another sovereign is something you must address.
Mr.
Those
Speaker.
who go voluntarily to take citizenship of another country, we have no issues.
Mr. Speaker, as a matter of fact, Yavi, in her own words, said that the competition in Kenya was too hard for her. She could not make the cut in the country. That is why she chose to run for another country. And that is the case. I know you saw the propaganda that was on social media. That's propaganda, Mr. Speaker. I'm giving you, because when I saw those propaganda that was on social media, I asked the question directly to AK. And I also saw her interview. And she said that while she was at 17 or there, she could not even make to the top 3. And that is the case for Kenya. The real competition in some races in Kenya is final. If you want to run for Kenya, you may not even have a chance to qualify to go there. And having gone to another country, she has done exceptionally well. What I wanted to say in conclusion on this statement is that we should be very proud to export other sports people to run for other countries. Because one, they bring foreign exchange to our country. They don't leave the country. They're always here. Mr. Speaker, everything they earn, they invest here. And Mr. Speaker, we should be proud. The question of fairness and corruption in selection of teams will be handled differently, but the question of a choice of an athlete running for another country, and they are Kenyans, they must not be ostracized for doing so. They must be supported for making that choice. The only challenge The thing we must do as a country is, having exported them to run for other countries, we also work very hard to make sure we beat them in these international competitions. But where they beat us, I would rather Yavi beats a Kenyan than an Ethiopian beating a Kenyan, because we still get the benefits with her beating us than somebody else beating the country. So just like we are exporting labor, we are exporting professors are all over the world, doctors are serving, teachers other parts of the world, athletes also are looking for greener pastures to develop themselves. And those countries have better facilities and better rewards than ourselves. And we must encourage them as we work towards the same as a country. Mr. Speaker, City Stadium is a county facility, and I'm sure that the County of Nairobi is going to take care of City Stadium. Mr. Speaker, on the peace tournament, Honorable Yusuf, I am willing, upon agreement with ourselves, for us to have one-on-one consultations on what we can do together. We have limited resources for us to give to everybody who's doing a tournament. In fact, we have agreed as a ministry that let us just focus on supporting the growth of this talent, but where an individual has come out to say, I want to start a tournament, I want to do this, we also allow them to do so using private sector, so that the little amount we get from sports fund deal with the key events that are national in nature that have been organized. But in terms of coming to watch your team, I'm happy to come. And also you should challenge the Bunge FC to come and play a curtain racer. I can be one of the players that can join the Bunge FC to come and curtain race your tournament, maybe at the finals or so. We can agree together. And congratulations for the same as well. Honorable Elmengit, I think I touched on Kapsabet comprehensively, and I told you that it's one of our training facilities for the Kipchoge Stadium that is being constructed in Eldoret, and that is going to be, the process of awarding is ongoing. I think it was post when a decision was made that one of the fields for Africa Cup of Nations was going to be Kipchoge Stadium in Eldoret, and therefore married together as one of the training fields that comes from Kipchoge Stadium. And then for psychosocial support, again, both gender-based violence, social support for our athletes is something that we must confront. I have established an office in our ministry for gender-based violence issues, and then we have asked all the federations to make sure that they put in place officers that are going to deal with gender-based violence and psychosocial support. I again request all of us, because it's a society problem. Suicide is not a problem now for only athletes, but also all other professionals in the society. Let's work together to make sure that we deal with this issue. I actually, Mr. Speaker, want to use this time to say, I want to thank your deputy, the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Shole. She's very, very passionate about athletics and in this area. And she came to my office and offered me very great support on what we need to do on anti-doping and also social support and confronting gender-based violence. There are some things we are working with her, and we want to welcome all other partners that can work together to deal with this menace. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But can we do one last round? Let me see those who are interested in asking questions. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we can take all of you, provided you ask only one question. If you do more than one, I'll truncate the mic. Maungu.
Thank you, Speaker. Though I'll seek your indulgence, I'd planned to ask 2 questions, Mr. Speaker.
Just ask one.
Maybe I wish to ask a question on sports funds. Last year, one of our great teams in Vihiga County, in Luanda constituency, specifically known as Luanda Villa, did participate in the Division 1 League and emerged topmost. Your immediate former colleague pronounced himself that Luanda Villa was to benefit from a kitty of 500,000 from the sports kitty, the sports fund, which was to be given to all winners. Waziri, this money has not been able to reach the club, and these are young people who really felt motivated that by winning the trophy, becoming number one, that money will go a long way in supporting their daily activities. So I wish to hear from you, when will Luanda Villa, which is our pride, get their money, the reward they were promised?
Mutuse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the interest of time, could the Minister inform the House and Kenyans the plans that the Ministry has for Ngaka Talent Center in Makindo Ward of Kibwezi West constituency? Ngaka Talent Center is the center that produced Winfred Yavi, and many other athletes, and it is in very deplorable conditions. So could the Minister tell us what plans the Ministry has for Ngaka Talent Center?
Guzia.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm privileged. I sit in that sports committee, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, CS. My question is, how much is the new stadium costing taxpayers, and who is doing it? Then the issue of pending salary payments of WRC assistant directors. They have never been paid. They have never signed a contract. When are you planning to pay them, and when are they going to sign the contracts? Thank you.
Thank you, CNN. Lenguris. Give Lenguris the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, the Waziri, for the elaborate explanation of the work that you do at the ministry, and we really appreciate. Mine is not a question, but a request. That, Samburu is far from here, and every time we hear about the programs in the national government, I've never heard of anyone mentioning that Samburu is being in consideration. And I know that Waziri has been there, and Samburu has one of the poorest. I cannot call it a stadium, but it's a field. Last December, I held a tournament, and I had to put the sand. Every morning, I had to spread the sand so that the players can use the field. So we have a terrible field in Samburu, and we are far from any other region that you have considered building a stadium. So kindly, I put this request to you that when planning, please consider Samburu. Thank you.
Oyula.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I was happy when the Minister said that one of his targets is to develop talents from the lower level, primary schools, secondary schools, and so forth. Mr. Speaker, with the little money we used to have at the CDF for sports, we were able to organize football teams in the constituency, specifically to help those who have already left school and have nothing to do, so that we keep them busy with the sports throughout the day. Now, without that fund, Mr. Speaker, we have nothing to help these youths in the constituencies. Could the minister consider putting aside something for the constituencies for sports, so that we help these youths to improve on their sports talents?
By something, you mean money?
Yes. Mr. Speaker, we will talk about county governments, that responsibility falling under county government. But I want to assure the minister that county government like Busia has more problems than considering funding anything to do with the sports. So our youths are just going to stay there, and the rest, the last thing we will see is thuggery in the villages. So can the minister consider supporting constituencies when it comes to sports? Thank you.
Asante. Waziri, mwanzo ningependa kupongeza pia nishukuru wakati ulipokuwa kwa barabara, ulitujua sisi la mashariki hatuna inchi hata moja barabara na ukafanya mipangilio mizuri. Asante. Na sahihi pia ningependa ufikirie la mashariki kwa upande wa sports. Upande wa sports, na hakika kwa miaka kadhaa au kutoka uhuru upatikane, hakuna kitu imefanywa Lamu Mashariki. Na ukiangalia kama mipango yote unayozungumza, uwanja Lamu County yote nzima, hakuna wa national government, hakuna wa county government. Sasa katika mipangilio yote sisi tunaachwa nyuma, na kuomba kwa hisani yako kama unaweza kusema hata kitu kimoja hapa kimefanywa Lamu Mashariki kwa hii ministry, uniambie tu kimoja, na kama hakuna kuanza sasa utuweke akilini na sisi chochote kinachofanywa huku na sisi mtufanyia. Asante. Umezungumza mambo ya klabu pia ziko, labda unaweza ziwezesha, na kama huzijui ziko klabu ndogo ndogo kule pengine zinaweza wezeshwa. Kuna King Royal, Biladi, Faza United na zinginezo nyingi. Asante.
Izara kuja Namwar. Yes, Namwar.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want also to thank the CS Sports. Honorable Speaker, my take is to actually acknowledge the importance of sports and to thank the Minister, CS Murkomen, for taking it seriously. And for me, I give the background of OKM tournament that is solely resource mobilized by the CS and also forming an integral part on peace. My take, Honorable Speaker, is how can he be able to allocate funds and call it sports for peace, especially in those far-plugged areas like Turkana, West Pokot, Samburu, and the rest. I will really appreciate he has been in Turkana, especially in Lodwa, where I come from and represent, and I would wish if we can also do a stadium in that place, so that we can nurture sports and also promote peace. Thank you.
Parashina.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I also need to congratulate the Waziri. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I also needed to request that, if possible, we have a kamkunchi with the Waziri. And this is coming out that sports really touches the youth. And many members of parliament, I wonder, when things which have been talked or been addressed, which is very critical to our constituents, are not in the House. I know many people are busy on the issue of impeachment, but let me... My question is about sports.
Stop being irrelevant.
Okay, let me just ask Mr. Speaker, no problem. Yeah, my question is about if at all we can do the coverage in other areas. For example, Kajiado has not been mentioned, and we have the best runners also. We have best people in javelin. So we need to ask that in this sports academy, if they can be internal and the proposal come in for finance purposes, me personally, I'm ready to support them to get more funding for purpose of having it equally distributed among other constituencies, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. It was the other observation today. Thank you.
Mukunji.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
And I don't want any preambles to your questions.
Yes.
Just ask questions.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also want to applaud the Waziri for availing himself and congratulate him for fitting in the office, the new office of the CS for Sports. Honorable Speaker, I would like Waziri to tell me and explain to my people in Embu when is Njokere Stadium starting, because it's one of those promises that we were told by His Excellency the President when he came in there. Honorable Speaker, we have a team called 3KFC that is doing very well nationally. And Honorable Speaker, we need, as Waziri is supporting the sport from bottom there, let the money for sports go directly to those teams that are from Mashinani.
Thank you. Bokoyo, one at a time, you've asked your question. We are running out of time, Mukunji. Okay, give him.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I just wanted to also a clarification for actually public knowledge, Honorable Speaker. When Waziri came into the office of the CS Sports, there was a picture trending of a very quick change into the furnitures of the office. I wanted to know, Honorable Speaker, because I know Waziri is a very prudent person. Is it public funds or there was just a change of furnitures as one CS was leaving and the other one coming in, Honorable Speaker? Thank you very much.
Ngokoyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to ask my namesake, the CS Onesimus, like myself. Ngong hosts among the highest number of athletes. When you are starting the Deputy Speaker is distracting me, Mr. Speaker. When you are starting the
Deputy Speaker?
Yes, Sholei, she's pointing at me, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Boss. She has many fights nowadays. Mr. Speaker, the stadium that you are doing at Ngong Road, Waziri, about 300 registered athletes, and even more operate from Ngong. Ngong has one of the best attitudes for athletes who do long distance marathons. Helen Obiri, in her interview with international media, mentioned that her greatest disappointment was that she used to train at Ngong, but she used to come for her track training at Nyayo Stadium. When you were starting off, your predecessors, when they were starting off the Ngong, what now we are calling the Talanta, the agreement was they would do something for Ngong athletes because it is one of the hubs that has so many people. You are saying you're doing 2 tracks in your statement. For track, you said you are doing 2. Why didn't you consider doing 1 in Ngong? Because you know very well that there is nowhere else around the metropolitan area that has even the number of training centers that we have. Actually, most of the international ones are at Ngong. Leave alone that government agencies, the KDF, Kenya Police, have even stationed their camps for these athletes who do the same at Ngong. It has also left Ngong Stadium, where now they should have operated from, nothing happening. While all the materials, the ballast, the sand, comes from Ngong.
Ask your question, Gogoyo.
So I want to ask you, Waziri, why didn't you consider doing the track at Ngong?
Owen Bayer.
Thank you very much, Waziri, for coming in to answer the questions, but also just a quick one. When are you considering building a stadium in the North Coast? You know, the North Coast does not have, we have great talent. Great footballers of Harambee Stars came from Kilifi, Abbas Magongo. You want me to give you the list? But we do not have. We only have Kwale, the new one, Mombasa, Muhammad Abbas. All those big footballers came from Kilifi. Lucky Boys, there used to be a team called Lucky Boys, a big team that was one of the greatest teams in this country. But then, no one has ever considered to look at the North Coast as a home of talent and build a stadium. I ask you, during your tenure, look at it and see what you can do, and make sure that
Thank you,
the
Owen.
North Coast has a stadium.
You made your point.
Thank you.
I see how many more hands. Cases, one question. We want to bring this to a close. Those who have just come in, I'm not giving you any time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Waziri. This is the sports person, and you're in the right ministry. Mr. Speaker, just a follow-up on a question by Parashina. I would wish Waziri to state the plans he has to ensure that the spread of sports academies across 290 constituencies are being planned to be executed, because recently we saw a few of them on notice, and we are yearning to know what are progressive plans. Lastly, the issue of athletes, and thank you for considering sports at Kipchoge Stadium. But you are aware, Waziri, that along Iten Road, along Moiben Road, our athletes are really suffering finding places to train in terms of risk of accidents on the road? Are there deliberate plans to organize a road all the way to Iten, side of the road, so that we allow our athletes, especially the long-distance runners, to use those areas and save them against the risk of engaging or getting knocked by the motorist on the road and all the hullabaloo. I thank you on the issue of gender-based violence. It's now a serious phenomenon within our community, being that elite community. We need to do something deliberate.
Thank you.
Society.
That
Thank
has
you.
been asked. Minister, can you quickly answer all those?
Thank you very much, Speaker. First of all, let me say that Honorable Maungu.
Just hold on, Minister. Yes, Women Rep Nakuru. What is the issue? Just hold on, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, CS, for appearing before us, and congratulations on behalf of Nakuru County. My question to you, Bana CS, is about the Olenguruani Stadium. Olenguruani Stadium was started 10 years ago. It was constructed and nothing went on. So I want to just hear from you what kind of intervention will you give to Olenguruani Stadium? We are suffering, our youths are suffering because of this stadium that has installed from Kuresoi
Minister,
South. Thank
can you proceed?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start with Honorable Maungu. I will follow up the payment for the Luanda Villa team, who are the winners of the Super League, Division 1 League. I will follow up on the same to make sure that they are paid, and also a few other sportsmen and women whose money has not been disbursed. We'll make sure that that is done expeditiously. Honorable Mutuse, Nganga Training Center. Ngaga, okay. It is not in the immediate, the ones that have been advertised. But as we've discussed with you, we'll make it a great, should be prioritized in the next one to make sure that it is taken care of. Honorable CNN, Charles, how much is the cost of the new stadium? I think, Mr. Speaker, I don't have the figures here because we contracted the AFCON stadiums through defense. But maybe in the next supplementary, I should be able to supply the same, either here or through the committee, the relevant committee for that matter. I was trying to text a colleague on the other side, but because we are here, it's not been possible. We do not have directors for World Rally Championship. We just have a committee. So we have no directors who have not been paid. But if there is any complaint, it should be addressed specifically. The funny thing about this sector is that you have so many people carrying so many papers asking so many demanding certain payments of contracted works, where this one and that, I was a director, I was a committee member, and so forth. So we're trying to streamline to ensure that the record is kept well. And if you are not part of the record, you cannot be contracted as an afterthought after the fact. Honorable Pauline Samburu, I agree. I actually, when I sat in that office after 2 weeks, I realized that nobody talks about Lamu, nobody talks about Tana River, Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Marsabit, Turkana. That all northern belt, including West Pokot, nobody mentions whether they need a stadium or they don't. I think there is a general mentality that stadiums are supposed to be in the old islands, so-called white islands and so forth. That should not be the case. And I think Kilifi falls in that category of the marginalized areas. I promise, and I want to say this, I promise that progressively we will make sure that we do affirmative action. The same way I did with in the Ministry of Roads and Transport, I will be very deliberate also in the Ministry of Sports to make sure those areas are considered for for stadium development. We have Samburu then being part and parcel of that area affected, and Isiolo and so forth. Honorable Oyula has asked about CDF. Unfortunately, Mheshimiwa, this falls back to yourself. It's upon this House to look at the CDF Act and ask yourselves why were you not able to finance sports, and yet sports is education. So it's sports, for as long as you're supporting education, you should be supporting sports because it is a part of the facilities of education. I don't know any other interpretation that would support. And let me use this opportunity to say, I support CDF. Even when I was in Senate, I still support CDF. I believe it is the best managed fund in the country in terms of development. So if we can allow CDF to also do sports facilities, it's extremely important. I think the interpretation that CDF is unconstitutional, from my position, is misguided. But it's up to the person who made it, and we are allowed to criticize decisions anyway. Now, on the question of Honorable Weda, again, just like I promised Honorable Nguris, I will do the same for your county. I will make sure that in the next batch of sports academies, we consider the marginalized areas, at least because that is affordable. We can start from there as we move towards 10,000, 15,000 sports facilities. Honorable Namwar, I am inspired by your suggestion that, because that is a question I was even asked during vetting, that what is the role of sports in promoting peace? I think we should transition what we started together as well-wishers and as CSR to the people of North Rift. We can transition that to think through it as government, how we can structure it to remain consistent with dealing with the menace of banditry and other peace-related issues in Kerio Valley, and then becomes owned by the counties and the leadership from that region. I also need to say that when we were playing that tournament in Turkana, I was very surprised that we were playing at almost 40 degrees at midday, and you're playing on sand. I think, your county and others deserve to be treated differently and as really marginalized areas. Honorable Parashina, I received your letter on the request of, I don't know, maybe he has left, on the request of the sports academies, and I think we will try our best to respond to the issues you've raised in Kajiado. And maybe now that you are not here, we can start with Gong. Oh, yeah, it's here. Okay. I received your letter. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we will put it into consideration. When it comes to Honorable Mukunji, yes, I am informed that before the Embu Stadium was constructed, Jukiri was supposed to be the first one. And so we'll see in the queue how else we can come back then to Embu. At least having considered a few of your colleagues here who are in serious problems, at least you have one stadium. Because of the Madaraka Day, it moved to Embu itself, but Jukiri was supposed to be the priority initially in that place. You have asked the question of the office furniture. I almost did like Balotelli once said that, why always me? The furniture issue is not, the cabinet secretary does not furnish offices, and neither does the cabinet secretary procure furniture for furnishing offices. The truth of the matter is that the furniture that is established there is part of furnishing Talanta offices. We have not occupied Talanta fully yet. In fact, the PS office is still squatting somewhere. They are completing. And also the PS youth has not moved to Talanta because for people who know, it's a new building. So it's being redone, and then after it is done, it will all be furnished. So luckily, in the process, my predecessor was there, and when I came in, the furniture was moved to other offices, other furniture was brought there. So I did not move with the furniture from transport. It is the work of the ministry to furnish the entire building. And that will go on until all the staff we need to occupy the headquarters is done. And why I said, why always me, is that people are saying the furniture is very beautiful. Yet it's a furniture that is in all other ministry offices, as you may have gone to other offices across the country. But I'm used to that now. Honorable Ngogoyo, very true. I had a meeting recently with Mary Mora after she came from the Diamond League. She's also trained there. She came with the athlete Cheriot. We had a long discussion about what we should do with Ngong. I agree with you that we should prioritize Ngong. Other than Iten, Ngong is the other place that has very many high-altitude training athletes. And we are going to do something to make sure that that is sorted. Both the stadium there for track events, but also the routes that are going to be used to run along the hills. We also need to know and hope the county government, when they are giving out permits for people to construct, we need to take care of routes that can be used for training. And we need to preserve Ngong as a very valuable, a jewel for our athletes when they're training. And I think we really need and deserve to do so. Honorable Baya, as you said, is true. There's a plan to do something in Shanzu to start with, which is still in Mombasa. And I believe that we should also move to Kilifi County to make sure that you have a proper facility. But what we want to do in Shanzu is of international standard, the equivalent of Nyayo, or somewhere between Nyayo and Kasarani, or between Nyayo and Talanta, something, because the low altitude competitions take place in places like the coast region. We want one stadium to be done there of a magnitude that can help us in hosting competitions, because you can't host it in high altitude areas, a very high altitude area. Honorable Ruto, I agree that we need to safeguard the roads or roadsides for running by our athletes. When I was in the Ministry of Roads, we had worked together with if you go to Ite now, our plan was to make sure that we safeguard running tracks with Maram. You don't need to put the tarmac in the side roads for running, and I think that should go on. I believe that my colleagues in the roads and transport sector will continue the good work, the plans that we had to make sure that this is achieved, not just in Elgeyo Marakwet alone, in all the training areas across the country, especially where people are running, and this will help. But also, preservation of forests and running areas around the forest will also be useful for athletes because they are off the road. And we can avoid accidents that happen to people like Geoffrey Kamwaror. And we were unable to have him for international competitions. Lastly is Honorable Liza has asked about Olenguruwani Stadium. That stadium is a county facility. And we believe that if you can work together with the county government of Nakuru, you should be able to deliver a good facility for Olenguruwani. But also, as we work towards delivery of the sports academy for Kuresoi North, yeah? Is that north or south? South, that's south. As we work towards eventually doing the academy for Kuresoi South, that may be an area to be considered for construction, depending. We have also some other projects we are working with development partners, and we will see whether we can identify that one area, because we know that is the home of Faith, Kiviego, and many other athletes, and that's the neighborhood also of Beatrice, Chebet. So we know that that area produces also some of the top athletes in the country. Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks,
Minister, there is a member who has been here since we started, Ferdinand Wanyonyi, and he's been raising his hand, and we passed him many times.
Yeah,
let him be the very last. Bashir, you just came in a few minutes ago.
Now let me talk first. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Ask your question.
First of all, I want to thank you for this very good report on the preparation for 2027 CAF preparation. Now, you've not mentioned Trans Nzoia in the Kitale Stadium, which is actually under construction. And I was just wondering, Bwana CS, with a lot of talent in Trans Nzoia, why this has not been done? You've not done anything on it? And I was requesting if you could have even the CSR contractor in Eldoret to do the CSR and complete this particular stadium, because Trans Nzoia has a lot of talent. You not mentioned that, and I was just wondering whether I should remind you on the same, because that's part of the North Rift, and I want you to do something about it. Lastly and not least, I just want to make a statement. Bwana CS, we are going to have people coming from all over the country, all over the world. And Kenya, you know, there's a lot of this thuggery of the youths. Please make sure that you stress on the security of the people who will come so that you don't get embarrassed. At the same time, the accommodation for the visitors, again, you have not mentioned. I want you to mention that as well, because it's very important. We want to give a very good image of our country. And so those preparations should have been mentioned here so I can be able to see who they can interject. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, that's the very last.
Mr.
Yes,
Speaker.
Bashir, sorry, Minister. Bashir,
Yes.
when the Speaker says is the last one, respect it.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. You know, in other places it's mentioned that it's ongoing, it's stalled, but in Northeastern, Wajir, Mandera, Garissa.
He has covered the whole area and said you are marginalized, he's going to give you affirmative action.
But Mr. Speaker, I want him to come out very, very clear to say that something will be done in Wajir, in Mandera, and Garissa, without saying that something like marginalized. So, Mr. Honorable CS, what plans do you have for Wajir, Mandera, and Garissa, and the other northern Kenya counties, specifically those that don't have stadiums? Please give timelines so that we know that you will be able to start at what date and something like that. Give us timelines of starting stadiums in those regions. Thank you.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on Honorable Wanyonyi's question, the Kitale Stadium is a county facility. So, and it is being done by the county. Until such time that we can have a partnership, if need be, in future, we will see what to do. But at the moment, it's being done and managed by the county government of Trans Nzoia. Number two is that we have the issue of, you are very right, preparation for AFCON is not just infrastructure. Today, I just came with infrastructure. But I shall be chairing an intergovernmental meeting for cabinet secretaries to discuss now to prepare for the overall preparation, which is infrastructure, airports, the roads, the security, what kind of security is going to be done, housing, you know. But also this is an opportunity for people to invest in AFCON. You know, look for and tap into the opportunities that exist for you to invest, whether in hotels, in the vicinity of the important stadia, whether you are going to provide transport facilities and so forth, Mr. Speaker. So I agree with the Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi that I should come back perhaps again next year, sometime next year, to now talk about government preparedness comprehensively for the tournament beyond the sports facility, Mr. Speaker, including now how we're preparing the Harambee Stars and so forth. On the question of Honorable Bashir, I don't need to repeat myself, Mr. Speaker. The reality is that there was no plan at the moment. And the truth is that we need to have a plan to build, at least in that region, at least one 10,000-seater, an international kind of a stadium in that region. The only thing that exists at the moment in the plan is the advertised Tarbach Academy, which is part of the 30 academies that had already been advertised. But a proper stadium, as I have said, and I reiterate, that region requires affirmative action from the national government. I thank you.
Minister, we have come to the end of our interaction. Well done. Thank you. If there are any outstanding issues, You can be invited to the committees anytime, but please try and manage our football. Number two, in other jurisdictions, these foreigners who come for high altitude training must be and are treated as high-end tourists and pay sufficient premium to boost our economy. I don't know what plans you have for those high-altitude training. You remember the Radcliffes and all those fellows who train in your county, renting little huts and not contributing to this economy, and then going to be world beaters because they have enjoyed our serene facilities. What are you planning for this? Because in other jurisdictions, you'll find this kind of training is actually a major contributor to the GDP of the country.
Mr. Speaker, I truly recognize your passion for football and organization of our football. And I, from vetting to today to when I meet you privately, you have always insisted that...
Even when we watch Arsenal together,
yeah, even
always...
when we watch Arsenal suffer together, Mr. Speaker. I believe that, Mr. Speaker, we need to sort that area. And so thank you for the support you are giving me and the support being given by the members of parliament. We will do, it's not an easy area because it has been a problem for a long time, but we are doing everything possible, using the coming elections to make sure that we open up the space and ensure that democracy prevails and we get the best people to come and manage our football. On the question of the athletes, we allow us to think about it further because, Mr. Speaker, we are easily going to be asked, why are you charging higher for that person coming to train to run and not the one who has come to film at the national park or so forth? So let me say this, that in our policy consideration, we will have an holistic approach to the same. The thing is that maybe then another issue is that when we build these facilities like Kamarin Stadium or Kipchoge or Kapsabet Stadium, maybe they will access those training facilities at a higher fee than the locals themselves, so that then it is the training environment and facilities that can help us get these resources. Otherwise, I truly agree with you that these people make a lot of money by training here, and they live very little because they live in small cubicles in the training facility, and then they very little for them to live here as an investment. But also, there has been a failure in the past in terms of investors. Very few investors have identified and invested in the facility. For example, this Ngong that we've discussed, Honorable Ngongoyo, if someone had a proper stadium there for training and then put an hotel there, they would get a lot of money. And that's where we want to tell private sector, you have an opportunity to make money in sports, and sports can really become an area that can enrich the Republic. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to be here, excited to be enjoying this discussion with honorable members, excited to be serving in this ministry. It's been very exciting for the last 1 month, and I look forward to even further interactions. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. You are released to go back to your ministry with your team. Next order.
Order number 11, motion, ratification of the protocol to the
That is the Cabinet Secretary for Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports, Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, leaving the chambers this evening. He is the Cabinet Secretary who was responding to various questions that had been forwarded to him by various members of the National Assembly, and he has just concluded responding to those concerns as forwarded to his ministry. But right about now, we would like to introduce a clip. This is with regards to the activities of the members of the National Assembly. This is members of the National Assembly that is yesterday on Tuesday discussed at length the implications of the judgment delivered on Friday by the High Court, declaring the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015, commonly referred to as NGCDF Act 2015, unconstitutional. The National Assembly has indicated it will appeal the verdict. Here is a recap of that debate in this story prepared by Parliamentary Media Relations Officer Muremi Mwangi.
It was adopted on 23rd Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly of Heads of State and Government held on 27 June 2014 in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea. It governs the operations of the Pan-African Parliament, aiming to enhance the full and effective participation of African peoples in the economic and development and integration of the continent. Madam Speaker, I'm sure many members of Parliament, without prejudice, have really never understood how Pan-African Parliament operates, and this protocol helps in making sure that it makes it easier for countries to understand the role of Pan-African Parliament. And this particular protocol has given specific areas of how the structures will be modeled. Honorable Speaker, the protocol has outlined the composition, powers, functions, and structure of the Pan-African Parliament, including its organs, such as the plenary and committees. It seeks to provide a voice of African people and diaspora, promote AU policies, uphold human rights, democracy, good governance, as well as foster cooperation. Additionally, the protocol aspires to advance peace, prosperity, and solidarity across Africa while promoting regional integration and active involvement of the African diaspora. This will be very interesting to the members who are in the Pan-African Parliament, because for the first time, other than what was provided for by the African Union, the Pan-African Parliament will be able to have some established kind of order in terms of how the committees will be running, how the plenary will be running, and so on and so forth, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the protocol and the accompanying parliamentary memorandum on the ratification of the protocol from the Ministry of the Foreign and Diaspora Affairs were laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 8th of August 2023, and subsequently committed to the Committee on Defense, Intelligence, and Foreign Relations. Pursuant to Article 118, 1 and B of the Constitution and Section 8, Sub-Article 3 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act, CAP 4D, the committee placed an advertisement on 2 local dailies on 16th of November 2023, calling for the submission of the memoranda from the public regarding the ratification of the protocol. However, by the close of the deadline, the committee had not received any memoranda for or against ratification of the convention. Madam Speaker, like I was saying, not many people really do understand how Pan-African Parliament operates. And like I said, even members of Parliament have a struggle in understanding how it operates. I hope that this protocol would make it very easy for members of Parliament and the public of all these countries who are secondary to Pan-African Parliament, who have members secondary to Pan-African Parliament, to understand it even better and appreciate the role that Pan-African Parliament plays in the African Union and enhancing cooperation between African countries in this platform of Parliament, in the Pan-African Parliament. Madam Speaker, in its deliberation, the committee was briefed by representatives from the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs on 5th December 2023, who presented the justification for the proposed ratification of the protocol. Madam Speaker, having considered the protocol and analyzed the submissions made, the committee observed that, number 1, the protocol aligns with the Constitution of Kenya and upholds the constitutional values. And number 2, Madam Speaker, the protocol could advance the participation of African peoples in governance, safeguarding democratic principles, protect human rights, and promote good governance across the continent by giving a voice to the African citizens and diaspora. And number 3, the protocol will facilitate the integration and development of African and strengthen the democratic framework of the African Union by creating a platform for elected representatives from the national parliaments to engage in continental affairs. To date, I am certain, other than information that is brought before the House and reports that are brought by members from the Pan-African Parliament, no, it will be very few, unless very keen observers from the public. Very few will understand what is discussed in Pan-African Parliament. Very few will relate with Pan-African Parliament. Very few will even be keen in following what happens in Pan-African Parliament. This protocol will make it extremely simple for members of the public from all these African countries to follow up and understand the operations of this Pan-African Parliament through this protocol, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as of the time of consideration, 15 AU member states had deposited their instruments of ratification. Kenya signed the protocol on 16th of July 2023 and is yet to ratify it. Kenya's participation in the Pan-African Parliament enhances its influence in the region and fosters strong cooperation among African nations. Madam Speaker, normally Kenya is one of the countries that is extremely active in our region, and you've realized that already 15 countries in the African Union have already appended their signature to this protocol, but Kenya is yet to do that. So we were lagging behind because of this process that had to be undertaken. Madam Speaker, by engaging with parliamentarians from across the continent, Kenya can address shared challenges and develop collective solutions. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, participation in Pan-African Parliament enables Kenya to contribute to shaping regional policies that promote peace, security, and socioeconomic development. Enhanced regional cooperation provides Kenya with opportunities for trade, investment, and knowledge exchange, all of which contribute to its economic growth and prosperity. Before I continue, Madam Speaker, I think it will be very important in the future that the members who go to Pan-African Parliament, particularly those from Kenya, must always address Parliament on exactly what they've discussed. If you just pay a little attention of what I just said, is that there's so much opportunity that we lose because of our people not getting the knowledge of what is available across the borders. And it is this Parliament and members who are secondary to Pan-African Parliament that should be able to be providing to the country detailed information of opportunities across the borders of this country to enable this country to enhance its trade and even allow free trade and flow of information and make sure that even Kenya is able to participate beyond the borders, as well as opening borders for trade, investments, and opportunities for this country. Madam Speaker, the obligations of that protocol fall under the jurisdiction of the national government. Financial provisions for the protocol's implementation, including administrative costs, will be factored into the regular budgetary estimates of the relevant institutions. Honorable Speaker, having reviewed the protocol and considered the submissions made, the committee recommends that pursuant to Section 8 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act, Cap 4D, this House adopts and approves the ratification of the protocol to the Constitutive Act of the African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and urge the Deputy, Honorable Major Sheikh Bashir, my Vice Chairperson, to second.
Just a point of correction, Chairperson, before the seconder moves. You mentioned that the Pan-African Parliament doesn't bring its reports to this House. In fact, it does. And it's the report of the extraordinary session of the 6th Pan-African Parliament is in order number 20. So that can be corrected in the Hansard.
I correct that. Actually, my point was that the report must even be subjected, not just to the tabling on this House and even debating it. Many people don't understand it. So there has to be other ways of making sure that the information that is brought to this House, other than what is available on the Hansard, is able to reach the public. That is what this protocol is trying to achieve.
Okay, I'm glad for the clarification then now. You may proceed, Seconder.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to second the motion that this House approves the ratification of the protocol to the Constitutive Act of the African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament. Honorable Speaker, the establishment of the Pan-African Parliament was first emphasized in the treaty establishing the African Economic Community. This treaty aimed to harmonize policies among existing and future economic communities as a means to gradually establish the African Economic Community. It outlined a phased approach to its realization, culminating in the final stage where the Pan-African Parliament will be established, with the members elected through continental universal suffrage. The treaty recognized the Pan-African Parliament as one of the essential organs of the African Economic Community, and Article 14 provided for the establishment of this Parliament, that is the Pan-African Parliament, to ensure the full participation of African people in the continent's economic development and integration. Honorable Speaker, the protocol to the Constitutive Act of the African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament, adopted by the member states of the African Union, establishes the legal framework governing the functioning of the Pan-African Parliament. It aims to ensure the full participation of African states in the continent's economic development and integration. The Pan-African Parliament serves as a platform for representatives from across Africa to engage in discussions and decision-making on the challenges and opportunities facing the continent. The vision behind the Pan-African Parliament was to provide a common platform for African peoples, both within the continent and in the diaspora, to contribute to the dialogue on Africa's development and integration. Honorable Speaker, Kenya as a country stands to gain significant benefits from ratifying this protocol, including demonstration of Kenya's commitment to democratic values, inclusivity, and citizen participation. Kenyan parliamentarians will have a platform to engage in the continent decision-making, contribute to policy decisions, discussions, build networks, and advocate for the interests of the Kenyan people at the continental level. 2, align itself with the broader objective of African unity and integration to strengthen its cooperation with other African nations in addressing common challenges and promoting regional stability and fostering economic cooperation. The third benefit, the protocol will grant Kenyan parliamentarians a voice in shaping continental policies and initiatives. This will allow them to propose resolutions, contribute to discussions on matters such as peace and security, human rights and development, and advocate for positions aligned with Kenya's national interest. Active participation, the fourth one, active participation in the Pan-African Parliament will elevate Kenya's profile within the African Union and the continent as a whole. This will provide an opportunity to showcase Kenya's achievements and contributions, potentially attracting investment, tourism, and other forms of cooperation. Honorable Speaker, the Pan-African Parliament serves as a critical platform for shaping continental policy and initiatives. Kenya's participation enables its parliamentarians to propose resolutions, influence decisions, and discussions on peace, security, human rights, economic integration, and sustainable development. Active engagement will allow Kenya to assert itself as a regional leader and ensure that its perspectives are considered in continental decision-making processes. Honorable Speaker, this protocol has 17 articles. Of importance, and maybe that the one that generates maybe a debate or discussions, are 3 articles. That is Article 4, Article 5, and Article 7. Now, Article 4 talks about election of the members to the Pan-African Parliament. Now, this article proposes that members are elected by the Parliament from outside its members, that is 5 members, and ensuring that there's political diversity. This is actually in line with how we elect EALA members. So the same way EALA members are elected is the same way now the Pan-African Parliament members will be elected. Article 5 talks about terms of office. It talks about it's 5 years and can be elected on a further one more term. Now, Article 7 says that, provides that the Pan-African Parliament shall be the legislative.
You can switch off the red light. You can give him extra time.
Thank you. Article 7 provides that the Pan-African Parliament shall be the legislative organ of the African Union. Just like this Parliament is the legislative arm of Kenya, then the Pan-African Parliament becomes the legislative arm of the African Union. And that is how important it is. But look at how members will serve and the numbers. Initially, from this Parliament, we have 2 members. But with this protocol, it says we need to have 5 members elected in the same line as EALA, looking at diversity and the numbers of political parties. And this is very critical because any person who serves in Pan-African Parliament, even if he's elected a member of Parliament and wishes to join Pan-African Parliament, once elected by this House, then resigns and joins Pan-African Parliament. So it's very, very critical. 2, it also talks about once every term of that Parliament or session, the Pan-African Parliament will deliver its report to the African Union, just the same way that they have been doing it here. So I think this is very, very critical, Honorable Speaker, that we need to approve this protocol so that we can partake in shaping the legislative agenda and economic discussions of the African Union in terms of participating in the Pan-African Parliament. And so, looking at that, Honorable Speaker, having reviewed the protocol and considered the submissions made, I am confident that the ratification of the protocol will advance Kenya's national interest. I therefore urge this House to approve the ratification of the protocol to the Constitutive Act of the African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament. Honorable Speaker, I second the motion and urge the House to adopt the report. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I think now, honorable members, I now propose the question that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence, and Foreign Affairs on its consideration of the protocol to the Constitutive Act of the African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament, laid on the table of this House on Thursday, 19 September 2024, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 8.4 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act Cap 4D, and approves the ratification of the protocol to the Constitutive Act of the African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament. Honorable members, I think I have on the intervention button for contributions the Honorable Member for Yatta, Honorable Robert Basil.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I had actually slotted to contribute to the Technopolis, but so I think I'll not be able to contribute much of this.
Okay, and the Honorable Nyikal, were you going to contribute to this one?
Yes.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is actually a report that we need to support. The future of Africans, in my view, lies in the unity of Africa, seeing Africa as one, both in socioeconomic and, if possible, political sense. We really need to improve free movement of people across Africa, have roads across, have airspace, have rails, because that is the only way we can take advantage of this great expanse place we are in. Right now, you know how sad it is that many young Africans actually die in the Mediterranean Ocean trying to run away from Africa and go and live in Europe. And they say they would rather die in that effort than live in this continent.
We must improve that. If you look at all the great nations, the powerful nations, it's actually numbers. It is the expanse and the large populations that they have. If you look at the USA, basically that is their main strength. You look at China, that is coming up. It's a huge expanse that is actually one unit. Look at Russia, and I believe that is why actually Russia is attacking Ukraine. They are hoping for the previous great USSR, because that was a great nation. Look at what India is doing. So unless we really get together, we will not go far. And this was the dream of our great leaders who actually led us out of colonialism. The likes of Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, Sekuturi, Tom Mboya, they had the idea of actually having one great United States of Africa. Of course, the colonists would never allow it, and it did not work. But I think it is still possible to have a Union of Africa, more or less in the fashion of a European Union, that will allow free movement, free trade, so that we can strengthen ourselves. Therefore, Madam Speaker, an instrument that links Pan-African Parliament with the African Union is a necessity. It is something that I really support. That is what we need. Africa is large. Young Africans, this large population, should be allowed to move freely across this continent, utilize the potential that we have, and see ourselves as one. So, Madam Speaker, ratification of this protocol is a step in the right direction. And that those of us who actually get into the Pan-African Parliament should see ourselves as creating one big unit, not going there to compete for the single unions. If you read history, you find that the last great meeting to get one African Union was actually literally sabotaged by the colonialists. In fact, they convinced the several small African states that if you have this great union, you will today, I think it was in Accra, you will today leave this city not as a president, but just as part of a small unit. And with that, everybody said we would rather be a president in a small unit than be some small person in a greater union. And that is how they killed it. So if we see the Pan-African Parliament as a route that actually can slowly start building that great unity that we need, we must support it. To that extent, Madam Speaker, I support the committee report that recommends that we actually sign this. And the more African countries that sign this treaty and moves us closer to actually getting people elected in a more substantive way to the Pan-African Parliament and start looking at Africa as one unit, that we should stop having to fly to Europe to come back to Africa. And I think this is the right way to go. With that, Madam Speaker, I support the committee report.
Sorry, the Honourable Member for Marsabit, Honourable Naomi Wako.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Honourable Speaker, when you look at the House, you can clearly see that we have many members out having some other meetings. And this is a very important debate that is going on. And I know many members would want to participate. And therefore, pursuant to the Standing Orders 96.1, I move that the debate on this motion be adjourned to enable more members to contribute to this very important motion. And we proceed with others. Thank you.
Honourable members, I propose the question that the debate on the ratification of the protocol to the Constitutive Act of the African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament be adjourned. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. It's thereby adjourned.
Order number 12.
the Technopolis Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2024, second reading, resumption of debate.
I think when you completed debate, there was no one on the floor. So I think we can come to you, Honorable Basil. Okay, proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Although, well, I was not there this particular time when Majority Leader brought the bill. I'd like to say very categorically that Technopolis, basically the industrial parks. And having industrial parks, Madam Speaker, we are going to spur innovations. Madam Speaker will be able to attract local investors and the foreign investors. Number two, why it's important to support the bill is going to create job creation, Madam Speaker. Today, we have so many unemployment youth in Kenya, Madam Speaker, and having technology will have to create employment for Kenyans within the country, Madam Speaker. This bill is also going to ensure that we diversify source of revenue for this country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, some of the flaws that I witness of this particular bill is that it's going to add burden to taxpayers. The reason why I say that, Madam Speaker, is because many of our taxpayers, ideally, they want investment to go where it can be recouped. And they put in money in industrial parks, Madam Speaker, will require huge investments, and this is going to slow development in terms of how much money can be generated through the industrial parks. Importantly, Madam Speaker, if you look at this particular bill, it's going to create some form of disparities when it comes to development, because the parks are likely to go to urban areas and leave rural areas, Madam Speaker. Again, another flaw I see in this particular bill is about investing money which is going to result to stalled projects, as we have seen with the Techno City, Konza City, which has consumed billions of shillings, and this money has not been recouped. If we were to put this money in irrigation, Madam Speaker, we'll be talking of food security in this country through irrigated agriculture, Madam Speaker. So in view of that, I caution that through the bill, the money should not be invested using taxpayers' money, but more so use private investors to pour money in this particular sector. With that, I support, but with amendments, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Okay, the Honorable James Nikal, you wanted to speak to this?
Thank you once again, Madam Speaker. Today we are having great ideas that are actually receiving not much attention. Madam Speaker, the concept of this Technopolis, which is actually industrial park, is basically for innovation. And the bigger idea behind it, Madam Speaker, is actually the use of knowledge in production. You know, in many countries, these are actually linked to universities, so that you have industry creating industrial parks where university don't actually do research, and the new ideas that are actually generated are immediately applied and commercialized. So that you find that as ideas come, they actually are utilized for production and for improvement of mankind. The greatest thing, Mr. Speaker, is actually what we call the no-do gap, where there is knowledge, but that knowledge is not being used. Historically, the greatest, what we can know in history, where there was knowledge that was never used, is the idea is the problem of scurvy, which is vitamin D deficiency. And Mr. Speaker, what happened? People knew for 100 years that scurvy can be treated and prevented by vitamin C for 100 years. And yet, sailors were dying, and this was not being utilized. Until somebody figured out that all you had to do is actually carry some citrus fruit on these long voyages, and that saved sailors. In Africa, people see universities as institutions for training young people. That is mandate number 2. The first mandate of universities is actually to create new knowledge. And if this new knowledge is created, how do we apply it in industry? And I think this Technopolis idea is where you can actually use the new knowledge, link it with industry, and immediately improve production, commercialization, and we'll have production for consumption, production for export, and foreign exchange earning and employment. So I think it is something that we should actually encourage. And this act actually creates a framework which will actually ensure that these Technopolis link with universities, link with industries, and therefore generate or improve innovation. And I think it is something we should support. I agree with the Speaker that in ideal circumstances, this is not an area where we should put a huge amount from the taxpayers' kitty, but this is an area where actually the industries, and maybe we shall look through, as we look through this act, Mr. Speaker, what we may need to do is find a way where the industry puts more input here, and it is funded more from industry than from the taxpayers' kitty. Because eventually, if innovation occurs, if knowledge is transformed into production, it is actually the industries, the big companies that benefit. The issue of intellectual property rights can actually be shared between the people, the innovators, and also the industry, so that they can benefit. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I think this is an idea that we support, we should encourage. But I think we will look at this and see how we can get more money from the industry into it than getting money directly from the taxpayer. Because if we go that direction, then people will see them as just creation of new towns using taxpayers' money, and then it will not serve the purpose for which I think it has been conceived. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill.
Very well. What's the point of order, Honourable Member?
Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 35, and looking at the House and the very important business that we have today to debate on, I wish to bring your attention that we don't have a quorum, and I know many members are engaged elsewhere. So I feel this can wait for another time. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Honourable Member, you are very right. I can see that there's no quorum in the House, and therefore I want to ask the Sergeant at Arms to ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes.